We had to, we had to say, our earlier meeting today went over time. So we had to scarf down lunch really quickly and start this one late, because we expect this one to be fairly long as well. So I am calling this regular meeting of council of July 22nd, 2024 to order at 1:18 p.m. And we're honored to be in the traditional territories of the Squamish Nation. And first we need to approve the agenda, moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kroll. All those in favor? That motion carries. We have minutes of our last regular council meeting of July 9th to adopt. By recommendation, item 3.1, moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. All those in favor? All those opposed? to clear, I'm going to do that one again. All those in favor? All those opposed? I was pretty sure nobody was opposed to adopting the minutes, but I needed to clarify that. And now we have some correspondence that we've put early on the agenda because they were late items that came in late last week or yesterday, actually, even. And they provide a little bit of context to some of the discussion later in the meeting of around development in the harbor area. Now, yeah, to approach 4.1 first, I can explain some context to this. This is these are notes that have been prepared by the Gibsons Landing Heritage Association, and have been with a lot of thought about seaside village character and heritage and village character or heritage character, I should say, in other communities too. They've done a lot of work, this organization, in collecting examples and considering the history of Gibsons and some of our older buildings here. And I have heard from councillors in the last couple weeks who are concerned about this as well. And one consideration I thought we could make from having this, and I've talked to our planning staff too, is that we have the option of adopting these notes as guidelines for the definition of village. It's village seaside character, I think is that the correct, exactly what the OCP says? Seaside village character, yes, it's in the other order. Seaside village character in our official community plan for proposed developments in the harbor area. So the thinking would be that these are guidelines. They'd be valuable to share with any proposals and have a conversation about with any architects and developers about how they could work to have their form and character to align with some of these values that the Heritage Society is proposing. And I think they did a really great job in collecting this, and especially of collecting some contemporary examples, because it's one thing to say our village character is, seaside village character is something that was built 100 or 200 years ago, which just practically can't be built now, and for a lot of reasons. But to find some examples of some very current buildings that kind of, tip their hat or that try to follow that same kind of feeling and character. There's been some good work there. Councillor DeAndrade.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm very appreciative of these guidelines. You mentioned that we could adopt. Can I make a motion to adopt?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I made that language. I think will work. It was taken down. Is there any clarity needed on the language or suggestions from staff?
Sorry, just a clarification. This would just be to consider the guidelines as part of the OCP for identifying or defining seaside village character.
Yeah.
That would work. Yeah.
consider the guidelines. Okay, yeah, that, I mean, that's the same outcome, really. So that's moved by Councillor DeAndrade, seconded by Councillor Thompson. So, and I see you too, Councillor Kroll. Does anyone want to discuss this further? No? Okay. Councillor Kroll, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor White. No, I really appreciate the work that the Heritage Society's done, and I've been working with some of those members, and I really think it's a welcome addition to information that needs to be included in the OCP moving forward. So happy to second the motion as well.
Okay. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, great. It's great to be able to see a visual reference that we've been all trying to encompass for a very long time. So it's nice to have this. So that's great.
Yeah, and I think it goes without saying that this is good work that can be considered in the OCP update as well in the next year. It's certainly something that we'll be looking at as a council and staff in that OCP update. Any more discussion on this? All those in favor? The motion carries. And secondly, also related to heritage, Stonehurst, the property owner for Stonehurst approached us late last week, and also in this whole context of talking about heritage and looking at a property development right next to Stonehurst. It was considered to be, this is a good time to release the information, the really positive information that the developer of that property has committed to pursuing a heritage agreement for Stonehurst, and the first step in that, the first major step in that, in getting that heritage identification, is to have a statement of significance that was prepared also with some local groups, including the Heritage Society again, and including the museum, and that's also here in our. It was added so late, I haven't had a chance to read it closely myself, but it looks fantastic, and it was prepared with a specialized heritage consultant, Donald Luxton, who the property owner has taken it upon himself to hire in order to work towards this vision that the town is really strongly requested in the last proposal for that property, and also in our strategic plan, which is to preserve Stonehurst. So I think this is really great news. I'm sure council shares that. And there are more steps in the statement of significance. Staff needs some more time to have a look at it and work with the consultant and figure out legislatively what the next steps are. But we wanted to get this in public today. To the credit of the developer, they really wanted to. They're really excited about this and wanted to release this to the public as soon as possible too. Any questions on that? Okay. Administrative reports. We have. I think this is a pretty straightforward one. From our Director of Corporate and Legislative Services. I don't see a recommendation directly on the front page of the agenda, so I'm going to need to consult my. But also, if anyone else has that in front of them, this is a pretty standard procedure. Just to we have to confirm our MAIBC voting delegate. On page 63, I think. 61. Oh, it's on 61. Okay. And yeah, anybody can. I have to do a lot of scrolling here myself. Yeah, anybody can take the lead on this. Okay. Okay, I hear Councillor DeAndrade.
Sorry.
Moving option 1. Seconded by Councillor Thompson. I just want to get to that myself here. Okay, so that's simple at the registered voting delegate. Yeah, I hope they can make this easier in the future. It seems a little bit cumbersome. We have to make a motion every time. So all those in favor? The motion carries to confirm that the currently registered voting delegate and alternates to vote your interests at this year's MAIBC AGM. And next we have Pebbles Beach stair replacement. We've got options on page 4. And that one is on page 63. And I don't know if, is there any summary from our project coordinator?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor White. Yeah, I'd just like to provide a bit of background, if that's all right.
That's great.
As mentioned, this report is to update the budget for the stair replacement and slope stabilization project at Pebbles Beach. Just to provide a bit of background, a couple years ago, when the slope stability concerns were first noticed, a geotechnical site investigation took place. This involved hand probing and shallow digging, and during this site work, a section of exposed slope was noted on an adjacent property where hardtail material was seen just beneath the surface. This led the engineers to believe that the project area would be similar. However, no boreholes were drilled or deep excavation occurred as part of this investigation work. Now, fast forward approximately 1 month ago, after this contract was awarded and the contractor started excavation on site, the ground conditions were not as expected, as the subsurface was composed of fills and mostly loose clays, and the hardtail material was a lot deeper than anticipated. The project team and engineers then revisited the design, and it was determined that deeper excavation would be required and that the stairs should be shifted to the west to allow for a more shallow and stable slope heading back towards the east side of the property. Both the contractor and the engineers were consulted with to determine how much additional work would cost, and it's estimated at $110,000. The team also assessed if any alternative solutions would be feasible that wouldn't result in increasing the budget. However, as the current redesign is believed to be the most cost-effective long-term solution to providing safe access down to the beach, the only alternative would be to abandon the stairs and to not construct any beach access. While this $110,000 is a substantial amount, it should be noted that this covers a variety of costs, including the extra engineering fees and site visits, the increase in total project area and landscaped area, the additional civil and structural work required by the contractor, and as well as added contingencies, where the initial scope of work just had the replacement of the stairs and the immediate surrounding area, whereas now, due to the revised design, the whole slope will get upgraded and re-landscaped, resulting in a greater overall end product. So to conclude, staff recommends option 1 in the report, that the budget be increased by $110,000 to a total amount of $337,000 to be funded by gas tax from the Pavement Rehabilitation Fund, and that the contract with NB Contracting be amended to amount not to exceed $265,735. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. I know this has been a really challenging project for our staff over the years now, and our community, because people really value this beach access here, and it's well used. And I wanted to make a couple comments on that, and one is that it's a very high cost, but I think it really hits home how complicated this piece of property is, this area is geotechnically. When I received an email just a couple days ago from a neighbor saying they're concerned about the erosion getting close to their property line and the fence, and it's just like it's getting worse. And so when you hear things like that, that's and we can all go there and see it for ourselves, I'm sure. There is some very, very intensive and serious work that needs to be done here to ensure that that erosion is resolved and the beach access is in place and for the public going forward safely. And another point I wanted to make on this is another thought about it is it's a high cost. But when we look at kind of our indoor recreation and all the costs that we spend on buildings, and especially wearing our natural assets hat, it's like this is for the value that the public gets out of this this beach access, and it's really worth it. So those are some of my thoughts on this challenging issue, and I'll look for a motion. This moved by Councillor. I'll go to Councillor Kroll this time, and seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. Any other discussion on this? Councillor Lumley?
I have a couple questions. When the town undertakes like a project like this, does the town go through the same motions that they would expect or require a resident, say on Franklin on the slope there? Does the town do the exact same things that would be required if somebody pulled out a permit to build stairs on their bank on Franklin?
I'll look to our CAO for that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, short answer is yes, we do. We haven't skipped any steps in here. It's just, so we follow the same as everyone else. This project really started with the adjoining property, and just, that property, sort of to the south of it, we take out permits for ourselves as well. We hire the same type of engineers. There's certainly assumption was made on, we're talking a difference of 10 to 20 meters, not that far away, but it certainly speaks volumes for the site. But short answer is yes.
Okay, did you say you had a couple questions, Councillor Lumley? Was there another one?
Kinda. The urban systems, like the engineering that's committed to date, did that include the re-engineering? Like, did that include the work that was done after it was discovered that maybe the subgrade and so on and so forth was not adequate, and at that point, more money was spent on engineering to determine what the best way to go forward was? I'm just trying to wrap my mind around the project, right? You have $150,000 in construction costs already on a project that can't be completed unless you give another 100. I'm just trying to understand, Mayor, how you get this far when you've spent all this money on construction, and then you go, oh, well, we can't build this like this. That's all.
I think that's what we heard from staff on the report, is that, yeah, partway through it was determined that this wasn't working. Yeah.
Yeah, if I can just chime in through the mayor. Yeah, that is correct. And some of the committed funds, like, we already are in a contract with the contractor that, we can't back out without damages owed. And also due to the current state of the slope and the site, like, we would have to stabilize and make it safe. So that was kind of included in the committed cost, like what we'd have to do regardless. And in terms of the engineering fees, yeah, that already included like part of the redesign, like once, the site conditions were not as expected, the additional like site visits and redesign, that's already included with those committed costs.
Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. Just for clarification, I was moving option 1.
Yeah, we got that.
Okay, thank you.
Was there I'm worried that there was something else here I'm missing, but I think we've got that motion's on the floor. Is there any more discussion of the motion? All those in favor? The motion carries. And next we have a succession of bylaws to adopt, which is great to finish all these off. So 6.1 to 6.5 are all for adoption. Nice to finish this work up at the end of July. And I could entertain a motion to adopt all five as a combined motion. Moved by Councillor DeAndrade, seconded by Councillor Kroll. All those in favor? That motion carries. And now we're on to 6.6, which is regarding 1057 Gibsons Way, which is a bylaw it's on pages 101 to 111. And it's up here for first reading with the option to do second and third as well, but it's certainly here for those options are for at very least first reading for council to consider today. And there's a presentation on it, so I'll go to our planning staff for that to start with that.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, we actually have the applicants, Daniel Lopez and Matthew, Davis, in the audience, and they're planning to give a presentation with an overview of the design changes since this was last seen, but I'll just give a quick introduction. This application was brought to council in January, on January 23rd, actually, of this year. And at that meeting, council directed staff to bring forward a bylaw amendment to allow the development at the site. Since that time, the development was also brought to the ADP for comments. We've received additional referral comments, and some recommendations were made by council that the applicant has responded to with a revised design. So that design, I'm trying. Sorry. Can I change the slide? I can do this verbally, it's okay. So the revised design has one additional story at some members of council's recommendation at that time, as well as step backs on the top story, some design changes responding to comments that were heard. Also, 100% of the apartment units in the development, which are 171, 30 additional with the extra story, are to be secured as rental or assisted living units. And additionally, there's a second car share provision in the revised plans, as was recommended by the car co-op. So the bylaw is attached to the report. And the bylaw would change the zoning of the property at the corner of Pratt Road and Gibsons Way, kitty corner to IGA, as you'll see in the next presentation. But it would change the zoning from an obsolete SCRD C5 zone to the Upper Gibsons commercial zone. It eliminates the minimum apartment size in the zone and introduces site-specific conditions to allow this development, including additional height, allowing apartments to be located on the ground floor below or behind commercial units, and reduces the required parking to 0.97 spaces per unit. And then, and it also changes some of the very specific car share provisions in the bylaw to enable an agreement with the car co-op, given changes to their way of working since the bylaw was written. So I will pull up, if that's okay through you, Mayor, the applicant's presentation, and Daniel can speak to that. Oops.
That's a different one.
Sorry, it's just in the background. I think this should work probably. Yeah. Oh, is that why it wasn't working?
Sure. Great. So good afternoon, Mayor and Council and staff and residents of Gibsons. Happy to be here. Grateful for the opportunity to show our vision once again. We came here in January to present our initial concept and made some changes after all the feedback we heard from ADP, from yourselves, to address those comments and take things to the next level, literally, as we added the 6th story for both buildings. So just to give it a bit of overview,
of where the site is, 1057 Gibsons Way, at the corner of Pratt and Gibsons, kitty corner from the IGA. We truly think this is the best location for some thoughtful density in town, with access to all the services you could ever wish for within walking distance, community centers, schools, and even parks in the future. So we really think this is not only going to be great for the lifestyle of future residents, but also to energize this area and bring some vibrancy to and health to all the businesses that are already there. Moving on to the next slide. Quick overview of the project. We're proposing 2 buildings. Previously 5 stories, now 6 stories, mixed use in keeping with all the goals of the OCP, as we've been guided through via staff to have commercial fronting Gibsons Way. In this particular case, in Building A on the left side, through pure retail units. On the left side, you can see a patio there, hopefully for a future restaurant or cafe. The other half of Building A and then Building B, ideally some live-work units, as we've seen in other projects in town that they've been successful. Businesses want to be able to, sometimes live in their own unit and have staff readily and happily working close where they work, living close where they work. And in this case, the total counts are 82 units for Building A with a healthy mix of studios, 1 beds, 1+10, 2 beds, and live works. And for Building B, 94 units. There's results in a total of 171 plus the 5 live work units and a parking ratio of 0.97. So essentially, almost every unit would have its own parking stall, and as well, we're meeting all the individual requirements for visitors, for commercial parking, and then finally for electric vehicle provisions, as well as some oversized stalls for e-bikes, along with some charging opportunities for that. In terms of features of our project, we're happy to incorporate social rooms in each of the buildings that I'll talk to in a bit more detail in a bit. A gym and a pet relief area that you can see at the southeast corner of the property in this case. So a quick summary of the comments that came through ADP and council and how we've addressed them over the past few months. One of them came through infrastructure. As we were finalizing the plans, the wish to accommodate a right-of-way for a future trail to eventually connect with White Tower Park. So we look at our plan and we think we were successful in being able to plan for a right-of-way that could accommodate a trail. Worked closely with our civil engineer to look at the grades to make sure it would be palatable, connecting to the corner of the property and kind of crossing through, as you see in the orange line, to Pratt Road, so that eventually you could go all the way from White Tower to, let's say, the shopping center and grab a coffee one day. The other right-of-way that we have planned for is a Welcome Art location in the northwest corner. We heard that it's an important corner to emphasize and celebrate, and that's a place that would need some further work through the town to accommodate public art. Next slide. Accommodate the 6th story. We all know how important it is to have more rental supply in town. It's an issue across BC and Canada. So we were happy and eager to make a 6-story work. And we actually think that the plans have improved from the previous iteration. We have stepped back the massing of the building, as you can see on the top floor. Roof lines are more accentuated. You can see some more of the soffits. We've added a trellis, garden boxes, and a shared amenity space on the top floor of Building A. We already had an amenity space on the top floor of Building B, so now each building would have its own, which is great. And now as you would drive through Gibsons Way, the top floor would be more interesting and articulated through the architectural features that you can see. This is just a quick shot of the original proposal. As you can see, more straightforward rectangle at the top and more visual interest in the bottom. This is from the corner of Gibsons Way and Pratt. This would be from more of the front of the property. On the left side, you can see that we added also more windows, wood-looking features, rooftop patio for that unit at the top on the left. And overall, even though it's another story, we think it's actually a more interesting design. In this particular comment was regarding adding warmer elements to the street level, specifically the retail front. So you will see a lot of more wood cladding for the canopies, the entrance, and in the middle, a bit more color to emphasize the entrance of the residential lobby. Another comment that came through is to reduce some of the glare from modern signage. We were asked to look into top-down overhead lighting for the signage, which we will incorporate in this case. And finally, not finally, second to last slide, but important element is to really bring community together. And since some of the units are family sized, to bring an element that would be friendly for kids and families. So we introduced a playroom for kids and an adjacent social room for adults to be next door and have some fun there. Overall, this space would be approximately 1,000 square feet in Building A. And another comment from council was, can you introduce accessible or adaptable units? We worked with our architect and looked at our layouts and floor plans, determined that this one bedroom that we had could be potentially converted to accessible or adaptable in the first floor of Building B, and we have shown 4 units that could be adapted as such, as you can see on the screen. And just to wrap up, showing full-sized images of the proposed 6-story building from a couple angles. Since we had already presented, that's the bulk of the changes, and we wanted to keep it short, and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. And I'll look to council to see if you have any questions directly for the developer here. And could we get Councillor Kroll back up on the screen so I can see if he's got his hand up? Great, thank you. We're asking questions for, I mean, it's fine to ask through the microphone. But yeah, and I've got a question from a councillor. Are we doing questions right now to develop? This is their chance to directly ask the developer some questions about this. Councillor DeAndretti?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I appreciate the change. I have a few questions. The amenity rooms, I noticed that, for example, there are garden boxes in one building A, but not in building B. There is a gym on A, but not in B, and vice versa. There's a playground. So would people from A have keys to access building all the amenities on B and vice versa?
Yeah, so the building, we would envision one management company to manage it, with residents having access to both rooms.
Maybe if I
Go ahead.
if I follow. Would the indoor playground be furnished with, kids' interest, visual props and places for them to, shelves and so on, and the rooms and gym as well?
Yeah, we haven't picked the individual features, but yes, that's the plan.
Okay.
Okay, any more questions? Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question regarding the trail access. Do you have more visual on that, or can you speak to just where it just looked like a green line? Can you talk to how that is actually accessed, sort of if it's coming from the sidewalk that runs along both Pratt and Gibsons Way?
Could we just, I want to ask our planning staff to bring that back if we can, because Councillor Thompson's trying to describe something we can't all see. I appreciate it's in your head, though. I can kind of remember it too, but it'll probably be help if we have the map up.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we were tasked whether we could essentially accommodate this space for it, and not necessarily design it, as that I understand it would be designed by the infrastructure or parks department. But our main goal was to just confirm that it can actually run through the site, because we have the mature trees, we have some grades, and we have some tight dimensions, as you can see in the drive aisle and the parking. So the SRW would run behind Building A. There's a sidewalk there, and then go south, another sidewalk next to the parking, and then cut through where the existing tree area is. And the request was specifically to connect with the corner of the property.
So specific things would sit with our staff then, as far as what it would be made of and so on? And that's not determined yet, obviously.
Stuff.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Yeah, the trail connection isn't currently possible because it requires other right-of-way dedications from future development of other adjacent properties. So this would be putting the legal right-of-way over the property so that the trail can be developed once it's possible.
No more questions.
Councillor Dianjadi?
Thank you, Mayor. The letter from VCH has a recommendation that mechanical air conditioner system be equipped with at least MERV. So my question is if these recommendations, because I'm not sure if this is already in the building code or I mean, how much, I mean, I would like to see this recommendation from Vancouver Coastal Health incorporated into the building. But I'm just trying, is it a choice of the developer is already on the code, building code? Or?
I may answer that. So, in fact, it's our typical standard to put in ERV or HRV in our units, at least one per unit. And so it's our standard practice anyway, so we would incorporate at least one per unit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I wanted to clarify one point, and that is that the concept of the public art, who would that be funded by, is the plan here? Like, 'cause I think I saw, I want to clarify, the town has, we don't have a public art fund, unfortunately, and we do look to developers to contribute that. I'm looking to staff.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I thought I would just save Daniel having to answer that one. There wasn't, because there's no amenity contribution required with rental provision, and because the budget wasn't seen to be able to support providing the public art, this was dedication of a legal right-of-way over an area that the town could, in future, if we're looking for space to provide, to place public art. This was a staff recommendation that they include a dedication at that corner for any future opportunity or funding.
If we get funding somewhere to do that in the future. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to get clarity on that. I see Councillor Kroll first and then Councillor Lumley.
Sorry. With respect to the public art, at the ADP, what was brought up was that this was an excellent opportunity for a piece of Indigenous art. As it's sort of an area that's sort of welcoming to the community, almost entering into another nation's territory. So it was public art in the sense of, yes, a space for the art, but I think the emphasis reflected from the ADP was that it be an Indigenous work.
Okay, I see two hands up. just want to make sure we're clear that this isn't where the territorial boundary is between the Sechelle and the Squamish Nation. That's in Roberts Creek. But, I'll go to staff first.
Thank you, Mayor.
Director of Stats.
We do have the Community Amenity Contribution Fund. So when we do collect CAC funds, we split it into affordable housing and other CAC. And so that fund could be used to support public art if needed.
I think yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes we need to have other meetings about these negotiations, I think. That's what I was talking about earlier. I don't want to be negotiating with ourselves in public, but I think Councillor Lumley.
Yeah, the one question is, I didn't see a traffic study. I know the ADP asked for a parking study, but I don't see a traffic study. I understand, like, access is Gibsons Way. Is that correct? To both units is Gibsons Way?
Yeah.
I don't, like, personally, I don't know how I'd feel going into first, second, or third reading prior to seeing a traffic study. It's, you know, I live here for many years. I've driven down that road. You have ferry traffic. You have traffic coming out of Payne, and even just turning left because of that hill on Pratt Road. It's really hard to judge, like, where the traffic's coming from. So personally, I'd like to see some sort of traffic study. Anyway, there's a number of reasons why, and I'm not sure. There's a traffic study on there?
No, I'm just.
Okay.
I'm getting hands are popping up.
Sure, but, okay, I still have, sure, and then here's another question. I wonder, I don't know, like, I really get this underlying tone in Gibsons. We're on this huge rush to, like, just approve housing. And I get it, it's really important, but, and it's not just your project, but, like, none of these projects are coming with us for, like, you know, I just asked, like, I was, like, for the first meeting, I was in Vancouver. You know, there's no green roofs, there's no, like, all these projects coming to the town, there's no solar panels. Like, I don't see anything that, like, added to the projects that, you know, and I get it, we need housing, but just, anyway, the last couple buildings that have come to council, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, but they're, and I don't want you guys to take this the right way, you're doing your job.
You don't need to apologize to me either, I didn't design them, yeah.
Okay, those are, for sure, I wouldn't vote on this without a traffic study.
Okay, I'm going to go to the planning department now.
Thank you, Mayor. I need to clarify that in the original report to council, there was a traffic and parking study, and that's been updated for the new proposal. And staff referenced the study, but we're remiss in attaching it, so apologies for that. We do have one.
So that was at the previous meeting on January 23rd that council had a chance to look at and comment on. But I hear, yeah, I remember Councillor Lumley wasn't present for that, yeah. Yeah. Did the developer have anything to add to that? I thought a hand up earlier, maybe it was the same point though, really.
Yeah, sure. Just regarding access, so the one on Gibson's Way would be a right out of the site and right in. And then we also have the access to Pratt, which would be where the full moves would occur. And we've run them by staff before, and it's all outlined in the traffic study. And just regarding the solar panels, we have looked at that in other projects before. And unfortunately, the payback time is, when we last ran the numbers, was more than 20 years. But we know that now there's new provincial programs coming down with some rebates and some help that might change the financial outlook for something like that. And we're happy to look at it if it's feasible.
Okay, I have Councillor DeAndrade next, and Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just on the note of the parking, we have a development permit area 3 that says to create a high-quality, visually appealing development with a safe, comfortable pedestrian environment, the following guidelines shall apply. And one of the guidelines is that the building is at the front and parking on the back. This guideline it has been respected for over 20 years, actually since 2000. Every single development comes and asks, can we do parking in front? And council has said no. We have Sunshine Coast Credit Union, Bank of Montreal, 101, the Blackfish, Park Road Automotive, professional buildings. They all ask the same. They always come with the same rationale, the same concerns that we're going to have problems if the parking is not in front, the public won't see, but the council has never approved. Even in the last 2 buildings that we approved, Mayor, on the 826 and 835, I think those are the numbers, they did not put the parking in front of the building. And this guideline is really important, especially now that we are incentivizing active transportation. So I would like to see this parking moved to the back.
I just want to make sure, I'm losing my sense of where we are in the meeting here. So I just want to make sure, is council ready to, are we finished asking the developer questions? And we're ready, I'm just going to go to questions.
Okay, I have another
I don't think
question too, okay.
I'm hearing we're kind of getting into debate mode now,
Okay.
and I don't think all the questions have been asked yet. So I'm going to Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm such a visual person. I'm having a hard time understanding the comment about Pratt Road as far as the traffic study. I didn't see that in the pictures. Do you mind, can we take a look at that again, please? Sorry, David. Okay. And so you were saying the right-of-way,
So on Gibsons Way, it's only right in, right out, so people wouldn't cross the street except to get in or out, or potentially a left in because there's a storage lane in the middle. So someone could turn left in, but not left out, which would be dangerous. The main access would be through Pratt Road.
got it, okay. Thank you for clarifying that for me.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a question because I just want to kind of reframe what Councillor DeAndrade is bringing up as more of a question, because considering, I mean, and for staff too, just considering this development guidelines or conventions that the town has generally followed over the years, or in our perception anyway. Why was it designed this way with the parking in the front? And I mean, was it a geographical reason or design reason, and I'm curious I'll ask the developer first, and I'm just curious from the planning department's perspective too, where they felt it aligns with our general OCP approach.
Yeah, so if I may, I would say there are 2 considerations. The main one being the retail market has changed a lot over the years, and from what we've seen, businesses don't survive if they don't have quick access and convenient access anymore. And the difference between an existing business or like an already leased business asking for that is different from building and spec vacant units that you will then need to sell to someone to attract and then establish a business. It's a condition of the OCP to have retail, and if the retail was smaller, we could probably make that work, but if we can't lease it, the project wouldn't be able to proceed. So it's the one thing that we're asking for these units to survive, because it's, as e-commerce and everything has taken over, really the convenience, quick service, and food is really what can survive here. So that's number one. And number two is, if we were to put the parking at the back, we have grades in the site. So it would be a climb to go from the back up to the front of the site. if you wanted to make something like that happen. And thirdly, because of the space we have, this is the only way we could fit all the parking that we needed for the residential also, because otherwise we would have to go further underground for the residents, which wouldn't make the project feasible anymore.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions, Councillor Diandrade?
Thank you. I have a question. Sorry, I have a question regarding assisted living. There's a proposal. Is there any, has the developer, through you, Mayor, have any conversation with VCH? And what is the process? Because what I understand about assisted living, we have examples here. There's an organization, the Good Samaritan, and they are all developed for this purpose, but I think someone is going to manage the building, so I'm having difficulty understanding how this would be viable, and if there's a expected number of apartments. Plus, my understanding that assisted living also needs some areas. It's like when you have kids, you need a playground. So I'm just trying to understand how this could be feasible.
Yeah, so our main goal 100% is to create only rentals, market rentals. The reason assisted living was added is because we've received calls from groups interested in that. And so we just wanted to have that possibility in the zoning in case for some reason the market wouldn't be able to bear only market rentals and we would have to partner or with someone just in case. But it's not our primary goal to do that.
And now, does your firm have experience in that too? I seem to recall some on Vancouver Island, some partnerships that that the firm has, and maybe working with Island Health, or yeah.
Yeah, I can answer that. On a master plan community we're building in Colwood, outside, about 30 minutes outside Victoria. We're working with Island Health on a comprehensive care facility. We're not really the builder, we're vending and we're providing the land, selling the land, and working sort of in a partnership with them, but really so we have those established relationships that we can look to. Just so far we haven't, in talking to other groups, we haven't seen, significant interest in this site for assisted living at this time, but we do have, a number of contacts. We have experience with this type of product in Alberta as well. So we understand it, but our first probably priority would be to build purpose-built rental with assisted living or seniors care being kind of a second option.
Thank you. More questions? Councillor Diandrade, one more.
Thank you, Mayor. That regards outdoor playground for children. I really appreciate that there's a indoors playground, and it's great for this weather. But it's a 400 square meters. I mean, I know there's a lobby for the parents, but the playground per se, it's 400. And if we consider there's 57 one-bedroom apartments, that could be, or two-bedroom, sorry, that could be at least one child, teenagers, so we will have maybe 20, 30 kids in this building. So we don't have any outdoors facility around. I mean, for toddlers, obviously bigger kids can walk to the community center and so on. But for a mother with, one or two kids, like a very small kids, it's very challenging even to cross this big highway and get to the community center. So I see that there's a space in the back of Building B, green area, and I wonder that if there could be a contemplation of a playground for small children and some picnic tables, and so people can have also, for teens and people to have some outdoors area.
Could we have the map up again? But go ahead, you could start answering it.
So given that the majority is, like you said, studios and one bedrooms, we thought a good amenity would be the dog area. But if there's room to potentially share or to co-locate a small play structure or picnic table, we can look at that.
We do like trees, so too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if it's kind of a natural treat area, I think that would be positive. Any other questions? Okay, so I think we've got options, and anything for staff on this too. I think we've asked all the questions we have, and we've had that other meeting. So I'm looking to Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. I'm happy to move the option, one, to give the bylaw first reading. And may I just say one thing, or do you want to second that first?
Well, I want to kind of put it out there too before we get there. We've kind of had a really front-loaded process here with this, where, I mean, we just saw this extensive report on kind of all the things that the ADP and the council has already raised and brought for are being addressed. So I think if we do, my feeling is if we do first reading only, like we need a reason to say like, okay, so what information are we still looking for? Otherwise, I feel like we should, I mean, this process has actually gone, and I know the part of this is a confusion that's been brought on by trying to look for figure out our new development process now that the province has changed things so significantly. But in this case, and as with a lot of cases, we're trying to do a lot of the work up front, and council was even intentionally doing that last year. Rather than kind of step by step. So a lot of this work has been done up front, and I would just recommend to council that if we feel we only want to do first reading at this point, we should be setting out what information we still need in order, that's still preventing us from going all the way to third reading, really. We should be thinking of that. Because otherwise, I mean, or do we have it all? Because this was already presented to us in January. A lot of work has been done over the last 6-7 months to respond to the ADP and respond to council's concerns then. So what do we still need, I guess, would be my question if we're only going to do first. But I'm going to keep that. If Councillor Kroll, if you want to respond to that, you can, or I've got Councillor DeAndrade putting her hand up as well. And Councillor Kroll.
Okay, I'm perfectly happy to go to first, second, and third reading. Something that did come up at the January meeting, both with this developer and a subsequent meeting with one of the developers with one of the adjacent properties, is that they work together to create a community space that could become a playground. And that's the only thing I would like to add to the mix. And at the time we spoke to the second developer, he hadn't had the opportunity to speak to this developer, but I would like to encourage them to work collaboratively to create that option for the community.
So would that be part of the motion then to
Yes.
put forward 3 readings and also encourage a developer to work with the neighboring property owner to
Create a
provide
community
a playground?
children's park space.
Yeah.
Playground.
Or a park space, yeah, okay. Is there a seconder for that? I'm not hearing from other councillors here, so I'm going to need to. Well, somebody else will need to put forward a different motion, is what I'm saying. If you're not pleased with that one. Councillor Thompson, you moved your mic, you're on the spot.
Thank you, Mayor. There's a lot to process on this one. I personally feel like having gone, there's a lot to consider from the meeting of the 23rd. So I'm just trying to get my head around all of the information that's required here. It's a really big development, 2 large buildings. I personally would like to go back and read the traffic report. That's just me speaking out loud here.
Councillor DeAndretti?
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. It's a big, I mean, I think the reason for this guideline for Upper Gibson's commercial development is because this is a highway. Our population doubles during summer, so we have around 70,000 people coming to the coast, and we are growing quickly. So we're going to have our population. This traffic is going to just only increase. So allowing building, like parking in front and with exiting on a highway, is just asking for, for more trouble. And the development guidelines exist for a reason, and we are supporting active transportation. So we are telling everybody, okay, walk, get all your bikes, electric bikes, and so on, people in scooters, and now we are adding one danger situation to this building. And another thing I don't see, that there's a guideline for extensive, significant landscape adjacent to building, to public roadways. I don't see that much. I saw some trees, but I don't see, like you see in the other developments. So why are we changing our guidelines that it's for safety? And now that we have active transportation as a top priority, and one of the top priorities of active transportation is to be safe and inclusive. So you have people on wheelchairs as well, like a walk in this. This is a corridor as well, the sidewalk. So why are we having cars parking in front of the building? I don't think it's justifiable.
I appreciate this is your position, Councillor Andrade, and it probably will be for throughout this whole process, because I hear this is the necessary for the development, is what I'm hearing from the developer. So we're kind of jumping to the last, this will be your position on it, I guess. But I do want to point out, council did see this traffic study earlier, and it went through a meeting where by what I see, I mean, I appreciate Councillor Lumley wasn't there, but we all saw it and we're okay with it. So, I mean, a lot of due diligence was done to show us this stuff up front, and so to now kind of use words like dangerous, I don't think is really warranted, because it's actually us who are changing our position if we're suddenly worried about this, because it did come to council. We saw it, and it wasn't no red flags were raised at that time. Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. I hear what Councillor D'Andretti is saying, but if you literally look at that location, if you move the building closer to the street, first of all, passing by, whether you're on a bicycle or sidewalk, you're not even going to be able to tell what businesses are on the ground floor. So, if a business is going to establish in this community, I think it behooves us to try and give them a little bit of a jump start, that they have an opportunity for being successful. From an accessibility point of view, if there was a business there that someone in a wheelchair or a walker needed to access, having to navigate the grade to get from parking at the rear up to the grade of commercial is difficult. It's one thing to have guidelines for property development, but if the geography of the location doesn't meet those guidelines, it becomes challenging. And I think, there are sometimes when we have to concede to what meets the needs of the community. It's important. Again, we're looking at a building here that is all rental, and to me, that's huge. I think we need to be willing to make some concessions to meet the needs of the community.
I agree. It's what we're asking for in our strategic plan, rental, and I really appreciate that this developer came to us and said, kind of with an open book, and saying, what are your priorities? And we said rental. So we need a motion here. I don't want to keep debating third reading because we're kind of doing the final debate here. And we're not there yet. We need a motion. And if council's uncomfortable with 3 readings at this point, and maybe it's just because we need to have another look at the traffic study, even though it already came, maybe we do 2 readings. Councillor Lumley.
Maybe I'm confused. I did look back at the January 23rd, just while we're sitting here. I can't find it, so, but I thought we were moving towards the first reading and then get some sort of public input onto projects. I didn't know we were gonna, I thought that was the intentions of council. I could be wrong, maybe I misunderstood when we talked about it, but I thought we were gonna try and change our process to go first reading, public input or engagement by the developer, and then second and third reading. The idea being that, and we discussed this, that most of the public thinks that by the time we get to a public hearing or wherever, we've already made up our minds. So I thought we'd kind of change that perception for the public. So I don't, I mean, I guess maybe that's why.
Well, the shift in this one was it started even earlier than first reading. It's like the developer actually came to us in January and said, and that was when council looked at it and, said, here's what we would like to see. So at that point, so if council wants to see more, I'm just saying, like, let's figure out what more we need. Councillor Giandratti.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, there's a landscaping, it could be that the landscaping frontage is there, but I didn't see, I saw trees, but I didn't see bushes. I have another concern with the multi-use path. The 4 meters is great, but then suddenly it shrinks to 1.5 in the middle of parking lots, especially nowadays that more and more people are biking with bikes that sometimes can reach 32 kilometers.
Giandratti, I'm sorry, I just want to, because I feel like we're on the final, we've got nothing to debate. I feel like we've already heard the 1.5 meter path, they've done what they can do on the trail, that's all that can be done, so there's nothing more we asked for that trail. And that's what it is what it is, so if you want to oppose the development based on that, we'll get there when we get to third reading, but we don't even have a motion on the table yet. So I'm pleading with council to please, I'll make a motion, but I'm hoping somebody on council can give us a motion to debate before we get into the debate.
I know, Mayor, but if
we're putting the cart ahead of the horse here.
I know, Mayor, but why?
Would you like to put a motion forward?
Okay, I don't want to go to second, third reading I'm concerned with the multi-use path. And then to hear the developer say, sorry, there's nothing else we can do. I don't know,
Well, we're not here to debate the developer either. It's what they've done there's only so much space for a right-of-way. So it is what it is, and if you don't like it, we can vote against it, right? That's kind of where we're at, but.
Well, I'm concerned with people who are experts of MUPs and understand, because one of the things we put in our active transportation plan was that the network would be safe. And I'm concerned with the level of safety, because suddenly, you have a wide and suddenly it goes to 1.5 meters. So, when do we debate that? We just accepted the developer say, sorry, there's nothing we can do. Was this really looked at? I'm not sure. And why he cannot
I'll go to
change.
staff, but what I heard in the presentation is council asked for this path, or it was council or the ADP. There was different, and the developer tried to do the best, and they're not even calling it a trail in the presentation we just heard. They're saying that the problem is we can only, there are places here, it can only go down, it has to go down to 1.5 based on constraints. So that's what I heard, but I'll go to staff.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. I thought I could clarify that I what we had discussed with this trail is that there was space. The goal was to meet a route that was in the active transportation plan. And my understanding is that this route would be multi-use up until that point where it narrows. And then there's an opportunity for bicycles to use the road, the internal parking road areas and pedestrians or children who need the sidewalk could continue on the narrower sidewalk.
Thank you.
Could I have a feedback from staff regarding the landscaping adjacent to public roads?
Go ahead, staff.
Sure, I'm happy to answer a question. I'm not sure what the question is.
The landscape planning I saw, I don't see, because when I look at the reference, all the other, the Bank of Montreal, all these developments, they have lots, they have trees, but they have bushes, so you don't have the building, and that's one of the guidelines. So it could be that I cannot see on the plan, but that there is, so I just couldn't see.
Through you, Mayor, there's a landscape plan by PMG attached to the proposal, and the landscaping is constrained by the parking in the building somewhat, but there is a plan for ground cover and trees within the sidewalk, between the parking and the sidewalk. So,
Just trees?
and frontage works.
Oh, okay.
I'm not completely clear on what more council wants to see before second and third reading, but I'm going to put forward a motion for first reading. And that's it. See if we can at least pass that. Got a seconder? So is there discussion on this? Because I guess first reading, I want to frame this that like as a council, this development already came forward to us very early, and this developer said, "What do you want? What would you like to see?" And council did provide a number of things, including even making this development have a whole other story with more rentals, which this developer did. This developer worked on this pathway, worked on quite a number of things that both council and the ADP put forward. And right now is the time for council to say we're not only okay. We've accepted that you've done some of those things. Some of the maybe council wants more. I haven't had that articulated yet, but we're willing to explore this further. This is in our official community plan. This is the developer's been following what the council's asking for. Do we want to consider this further? That's really what first reading means. So that's the question before us right now. And if we don't even want to consider this, then we should be voting it down. So I'll look at Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. Something that hasn't been mentioned is the support the local car share has given this project, that the developers reached out to them and negotiated an agreement for, I believe, 2 vehicles, which would be on site, which is certainly appreciated. It reduces the need for parking and is sort of a little more of a green initiative, fewer cars on the road. As I said, I was prepared to go with the original motion I brought forward, but I'll certainly second this one.
Okay, and I'll put it out to council too, like I feel like we're kind of going towards, going in a direction where we've already asked for a lot of things and now we're gonna say it's not good enough, but we should, if we pass first reading, we still have, I mean, I don't think we can change density between second and third, I'll ask staff that, but otherwise there are still, if council needs more time, really wants to phase this out and needs more time, wants to ask for things, more information and or solicit more information on this, we can still ask for that between second and third, I would guess, and if we kind of schedule it out that way. So go to our director for that.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, that's correct. So you can do little tweaks to the bylaw as it moves along. So if there's something that comes up and you want to tweak it, you could tweak it for the next readings. But you'd want all the information before by third reading. Because after third reading, we'd send it to the Ministry of Transportation for sign off, and then it comes back to council for adoption.
Okay, thank you. Councillor DeAndrade?
Thank you.
This is on the motion of first
Exactly,
reading.
but I'm saying as a request to bring for second reading, is it possible to just a sketch of the outdoors playground, just to see if it's possible? I know there's some trees there, but just to see if there's a place that people can hang out and a picnic table, some outdoors. There will be a lot of people living in these two buildings, right? We are talking about potentially 250 people, right?
Okay, I see some nodding there that is that,
Yeah, and just to reiterate that we have a rooftop social room in each building also. So we can look at adding a picnic table or small play structure in where we had the dog area before.
okay, so maybe we'll get that down in writing too, that's an amendment to the motion that council requests the developer to consider an outdoor play structure and provide a drawings for second reading. So that's an amendment being put forward. Is there a seconder for that? I need a seconder. So, okay, I've got a seconder. All those, is there any discussion on this? All those in favor of the amendment? I'm fine with it, like, if this is all those opposed to the amendment? No, one opposed. And so now we've got an amended motion at first reading with the request for consideration of outdoor play structure. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. Thank you for coming. And we'll be seeing you again. So now we are on to 6.7, which is zoning amendment bylaw for Gillies Walk residences. This is another one we've seen before, but more recently. Well, sorry, my mic's not on. This is 6.7, Billy's Walk residence zoning bylaw. And this is again another one that's up for at least first reading, but again up to council's discretion of second and third. And I think this is another one where we have the developer here to present first. I'll go to staff to.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. So just to summarize, this is a zoning amendment for first reading, and it could go up to 3 readings. It's a new RM8 zone, so it's a new zone that meets the OCP's high-density residential land use designation. We don't have that zone in our zoning bylaw yet. There are site-specific setbacks for the subject property. This was brought to the Committee of the Whole June 18th. It's for a 4-lot lot consolidation with 5 residential buildings with a public pedestrian walkway through it, connecting North Fletcher to Gibsons Way. The proposal proposes a total of 49 units in 5 buildings. 3 would be apartments and 2 of them would be fourplexes. And then as part of that, the zoning amendment, it would remove the property from the view protection area as well. And Fritz is here to answer any questions if council has any. Thank you.
Okay, so any questions from council? Are we, any motions? Well, I'm like, we have to, what do I do here? We've got a lot on the table today, so I mean, I appreciate councillors. All right, it's a pretty exhausting day, and we've still got more to come. Councillor Lumley.
Yeah, through the mayor, I do have some questions. I know my first question, I guess, is through you for the staff. I guess it's the bylaws being or the zoning bylaws being changed from high density and hotel or sorry, I don't have it. But it already said high density. I was just wondering why, if it was already included in.
I'm not sure. I'll go up to staff.
Thank you, Mayor. Through the mayor to Councillor Lumley. The property is currently zoned Comprehensive Development Area 1, which allows a single-family dwelling on the lot or on each of the lots with 10-meter setbacks. It's essentially is hard to meet. So the rezoning would be consistent with the official community plan. So the OCP looks at that property and designates those properties as residential tourist accommodation and high density. So the new zone is an RM8 zone, which would allow what's being proposed today. There are site-specific setbacks in the zone to accommodate what's being proposed. So the site-specific setbacks are between, let me just double check them, between 4 feet and 8.5 feet, depending on the property line.
Okay, and then I guess, I don't know why I'm just like this traffic cop today, but I did have another question regarding, like, when you look at some of the drawings of cars going in and out, I'm almost curious, because I know sometimes, okay, you're going to add, like, this development as proposed is going to add a lot of people coming and going from, and if I mean, I spent some time recently inside a building on the corner, and I mean, I implore any of you, if you want to come and help paint or do anything for the day, you're going to hear horns, you're going to have people yelling. I couldn't believe it when I was down there. I was down there for a couple of days in a row. So one of my concerns, of course, but maybe it's a concern already, is the 4 corners or the 5 corners. So, I mean, people stop where they don't have to stop. People are turning left. It's like, it's already a bit of a, blank show down there. So that was one of my first concerns. And then the other question I had was, it looks kind of chaotic on North Fletcher. And I mean, I can't even believe I'm going to say this, and people on North Fletcher are going to probably, but the entrance to North Fletcher from School Road is already treacherous coming down School Road. And if the idea in the future is that the bottom of School Road won't even be School Road, why wouldn't we make North Fletcher like a one-way street? Why wouldn't most of the access to the development at the top where they show all the cars turning in on the plans, why wouldn't that just be, because you could see like congestion and stuff happening from, especially on School Road. Anyway, these are just some of the things when I look at the plans, I think Wouldn't that make the most sense, is to kind of designate North Fletcher as one way, like coming down from Gibsons Way?
Okay, I
have
know
traffic.
our Director of Infrastructure isn't here, and I know he's spent, this is his time for summer holiday this week, so we all need to get that. And I know he's spent a considerable time thinking about traffic around that area, and
Should I talk to him, Mayor, or should I send him? You can understand imagine
Yeah.
people come straight up, blow through the stop signs, and now they're gonna wanna take the next right. Someone's coming out of South Fletcher. It would really make a lot of sense if the traffic, say, going to the proposed development was continued right up Gibson's Way, which is the easiest route with less friction, and then down North Fletcher. That's just a suggestion. I don't know if, it's a question, but I don't know if it's possible, or if it makes sense to anybody else, but that's just one of my questions.
yeah, I don't know if anybody here is ready to, I know, when it comes to Five Corners, we did talk about that, have that conversation as a council earlier about that concept of having that South Fletcher running straight through, and decided not to do that. Which previous council has decided that too, but it's still back there as one of those proposals from long ago from a consultant. Another proposal from long ago from a consultant was to block off the bottom of School Road, and council's not necessarily going in that direction. I heard you make reference to that, Councillor Lumley, but I haven't really heard us say we're doing that either. But yeah, as far as I think the traffic planning around goes, that's probably a good question for the Director of Infrastructure, and I don't think the developer in particular can answer that, but about our roads, but maybe has an opinion on it. Yeah.
Architect, but two studies have been done by Bond Engineering, and the reason why there are two is that the two fourplexes are of Fletcher, and the other units are of Gibsons Way. So it's kind of 841 instead of 49. And so the first report about the fourplexes is that the conclusion is that there is a slight increase in traffic, according to one engineer. There's no issue. If you picture this, these are two fourplexes. Yeah, each of them have a double private garage, like you normally have in a house, right? So the recommendations back from engineering separately for the fourplexes. Oh, sorry, that helps. Sorry about that. I had no idea that I need a green light. But anyway, so there was two reports done for one report for the two fourplexes of Fletcher and one for the 41 units of Gibsons Way. And so the report came back with recommendations. The recommendations were not for Fletcher itself, if it should be one way or two ways. I mean, it is narrow, totally with you there. It's also a bicycle corridor. The town spent money on it, with all that intersection between Fletcher and School Road. I think it's fantastic. And then the other part of Fletcher is what is that wavy kind of design done to limit the speed of cars. It's amazing. So from our point of view, it's one way or two ways, but I find the one way sounds like a good idea to me. But anyway, so then if you imagine living there, we have all the garages are set back from the road, like 18 feet as a minimum, so that the car can stand there before they go. Bond Engineering checked all the sight lines, you know what I mean? All the curves, we've implemented all of that is implemented in our drawings. For instance, if you take the extension of Gibsons Way, if you want to see any visual images, Jerry in our office is ready to show you images if you would like to see those, because we did the presentation before and I understood what would be done here was just to answer questions. You have the staff probably has the same presentation as well. But anyway, so if you want to see something that can be accessed, for Gibsons Way, there's one in the summary. There's one recommendation that Bond Engineering makes, and that is after we've implemented all their requirements for maneuvering, for turning fire trucks around, for loading. It goes on and on. Right? It's all in there. It's done, right? But a big recommendation from them was to change the maximum speed from 50 to 30 in the curve that all of you know. And of course, part of the report is also to increase the visibility, because a lot of planting, high planting, goes right up to the street, right? So at the moment it's actually really bad, but it can be improved simply by providing better sightlines, right? And then, but the other recommendation is that, and I kind of thought it makes sense to me, because we've been thinking about the walkable village, as the lower part, that it's a walkable village, and Gibson's Billy's walk takes a big role in that. It makes sure that people can walk down not on 20.5% steepness, not with cars around them, but in a protected area with a maximum slope of 10%. There's some other things that we can do as well, but that may come up later in the process. So I guess what I'm saying is that we're definitely conscious of the issues regarding traffic. The reports are here.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I appreciate that explanation. It's, the hardest thing is just looking at the density of that corner, and it was interesting that you make a reference to being in Lower Gibsons, because I spent a couple hours down there over the weekend, and there were at times 4 cars on one through spot, 3 cars, pedestrians walking, everybody stopping where there's no stop sign, and I was going, this is just a regular summer day. And to get my head around the increased density in that area of coming and going, of never mind just cars, but also the 45 people that are going to be in that area, doubled with, I go up and down North Fletcher often, and it is a challenge. It's a challenge to ride your bike on. And I'm looking at on the drawing on page 139, and so the consideration of coming in and out of that North Fletcher Road area is at least 7 parking spots. Is that correct? At least six to 8 spots?
So we have 8 units, and each of them have a 2-car garage.
Right, so 8
There's 16 cars.
in that one
8 units.
area. So those are my concerns. And they feel big to me, of just what's going to be happening in that area of car flow and pedestrian flow.
I just want to ask you, Councillor Thompson, there is a traffic study here. So those are, I hear those concerns really high level of the traffic is challenging in the area. So that's why we ask for a traffic study. So there should be hopefully some answers to your questions in that traffic study, but because I don't know where to go if we want more traffic studies or.
Well, this is all based on traffic counts. So like in projections in the future, like a 3% increase in traffic from the numbers that they have from the previous counts, like from cars. I believe that if you ask for traffic studies and you hire a firm like Bund Engineering, there has to be you have to have some trust in that. What's the point of doing traffic studies? There's a lot of time and money involved in doing this. So these reports, from my point of view, are for real, and there's one major recommendation in it, in general, that cars shouldn't storm towards the 5 corners, and maybe they should be encouraged to drive slower.
And I'll follow that up. And I agree, there is a degree of professional reliance that, when you're looking at this, it's just, when you're sitting there and you're a part of it and you're watching it. So to get to a question, when I'm looking at that area, and again, I'm referring to page 139, and you're looking at North Fletcher Road that comes onto School Road, the property line that's right there, and you can see the one
I just don't
car
have
garage.
the images here, so
Yeah, sorry.
I can ask how does it work to get the images on? Because you can ask Jerry if you give him access on Zoom.
We were having a hard time getting him in. He's in now.
Oh.
Is he in? Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, yeah, I appreciate that. What is physically there is just bear with me, visual person, in that three-dimensional view, when I'm coming around that corner, I can look at this on a flat piece of paper. When I come around that corner from School Road onto North Fletcher, what is going to be on my immediate right? When I'm turning that corner
going
from a
uphill or
height?
going downhill?
Well, say entering from even South Fletcher or School Road, but just right on that immediate corner. So when
That's
we,
the intersection.
yeah, so we turn down, and where the car park garage is, where you're proposing,
Well, we have one garage from School Road, which is 2 cars, right? Double garage.
I see that, yep.
And then we have, then there's the fourplex that is the closest to School Road, right? There is no direct garages onto Fletcher. They are all from Billy's Walk that starts as that's called the dead end lane, right? That's only like one building deep. And so there's 3 garages that indirectly go onto Fletcher. We first go onto that's called the lane.
From the driveway.
Yeah, so you can see it clearly here, like on the right side. So if you enter here from Fletcher, what you see is Billy's Walk. And on the right side, there are 3 garages. You can see the buildings are only 2 stories high there. And so when you come out of that garage, you drive towards Fletcher, which is where the bicycle is there, right? Oh, this one failed and this one works. Okay.
I don't mean to interrupt, but do you have a shot from more poised from the corner?
Yeah, so can you go back to the one you had there? Yeah, this one, yeah, okay. Thanks, Jerry. So in the middle you see Billy's Walk with the view corridor and the water in the distance. On the right-hand side is building E, which is 2 stories high, where the 3 garages are. And then on the right side it is 3 stories high, also on a private double garage, also set back from School Road. So what you see on the right side, where these trees are located, they come from the landscape plan. That's what you would see. And so the bicycle corridor, I mean, it's not finished, right, Fletcher? But if you look at the intersection, if you look at the wavy part of North Fletcher, I guess the intention is to connect that. Like that's the wavy part, right? And then the second part of North Fletcher is straight because it's narrower. And here, that is the beginning that is built by the town. This is you look from North Fletcher into South Fletcher. They don't really align perfectly. And that concrete that goes around the corner is the start of a sidewalk, but your engineer will know that better.
That's the carry through from.
Yeah, it goes around the corner. And it's really interesting actually to see of what they did. If you're bicycling, you go down, they have that kind of exit lane that goes from School Road into South Fletcher. I mean, I think there's a lot of thought in this intersection. And you can see the big bicycle graphic, which is bicycles going north from School Road on North Fletcher. So here on your left-hand side is the proposed development. And you're climbing up, because we have 3 stories at the bottom, we're 2 stories at the top.
Got it.
Okay, Councillor Lumley. Sorry. Councillor Lumley.
Yeah, I don't want to, I've expanded this into like, I've got some other things about traffic and cars and, it almost, Mayor, I almost feel like the community amenity for this project should be a giant parking lot somewhere, but I just living here, and I like no disrespect to Bunt or anyone speaking to the Bunt thing, but for one day in 2014, extrapolated to this date, I'm not sure if that gives us a clear picture. And and you know what? I love this development. Like, I would like nothing more than to see it happen. I think it encompasses everything that I would picture like buildings to look like in Lower Gibsons, like in creating a neighborhood. But I'm just knowing what I know, living here, operating a business down there. I just need a better solution. It's just, I don't think, it's almost like you'd have to set up cameras there like for 2 or 3 months and just kind of analyze the flow of traffic and people and walking and dogs and children, and you just have to go, okay, like this is like, and nobody can disagree with this. This is it's a congested corner, and you're going to add all these people. I'm not saying, I would just say, all I'm saying here is to find a solution. And I don't think an outdated traffic study adjusted for current time is adequate. So should we update it? I would believe, but it has to be in a different form. That's all. And no disrespect to anyone on this project, I love it. I do, but it can't go forward and create more of a problem for Lower Gibson's traffic. And that's my fear, is that it will. So I don't know how else to say or phrase this. Like, I would just like to see, there might have to be some major changes. Sorry.
Sorry, I want to go to staff because, yeah, and I think part of the context to this too is there are traffic challenges we've been acknowledging this entire term with Five Corners, and way before that, that kind of go beyond any one development. And then I know just informally in town hall, it kind of gets, hey, what about this? What about that? Like people showing up, even saying, and I appreciate Councillor Lumley just brought up, what about a one-way on North Fletcher? Like there are kind of ideas outside this development proposal that perhaps need to be teased out a little more to give council some more kind of confidence that we've got a plan for increased traffic in this area. And I know CAO Machado's been talking to our Director of Infrastructure about some of these ideas, so I'll kind of go to him.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I certainly appreciate it. And from infrastructure's perspective, we're supportive of what's been proposed to get in and out of the site. The Five Corners challenge, it was there before these folks show up, and it's going to need a lot more work on our part to, even before this appeared, we have to come back with some options for, in light of this proposal, how else would we look at Five Corners, because the issue runs right from Seaview, you could argue, all the way to Jack's Lane and around, or from Marine Drive, from the Wharf, from Molly's Lane, from Gower Point. And I don't think that this development is not the main cause of it, but it just motivates us to look at that even further. Any day of the week, it is almost disconcerting, that corner, sort of although arguably some folks would recommend that people figure their way around traffic and that sometimes we can over-design a site. It's a very challenging site with grade and so on. So from our perspective, we're supportive of what's been proposed, but we recognize that this isn't going to solve the Five Corners without us doing more work. Just a comment there.
Good. Councillor Kroll's been waiting for a while. I'd like to go to him.
Thank you, Mayor White. I just, Councillor Lumley referred to as an outdated traffic study, and I thought the Spunt report was July 2024, so I'm not sure what he was referring to. But I certainly agree with what the CAO just had to say, is Five Corners, I was here in 1979, and Five Corners was a problem then. It hasn't improved any. When you add tourism and additional traffic and people using it as a shortcut to get to Area E, one thing and another. So, the project isn't the problem. The corner's the problem, and it as Manny just said, it's going to be something that we need to address.
Thank you. And I guess I'd like to go to planning staff to just ask them about the traffic study and just concerns about when it was done and how it was updated and how it meets, I guess, our standards for what we generally ask for in a traffic study.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just trying to go to the section where it talked about how it was updated, but they had a count done in 2018, and they grew it by 2% per year over 6 years to come to the numbers today. We don't have a policy or a standard for traffic studies. We rely on the traffic engineers to use their best practice, and then we would take what they have. If we have concerns about how they came to those numbers, we can ask them if they could recount maybe in today's, for a date today. I don't know how that's going to change the numbers, but if that's what council needs to feel more comfortable about it, we could ask for that. But also, Five Corners has been a problem, as the CAO had mentioned. It's always has been. So that would be looked at when we do our traffic study, our town-wide traffic study, and look at how we could make improvements.
Okay, thank you. Councillor D'Andrade.
Thank you. One thing I found interesting about this traffic study, well, two things basically. One, that we here at the council table, I think staff even mentioned that they would do that. It's not allowed, if we are exiting, going uphill, we would make it mandatory go down, because then you would be crossing two, back and forth. The traffic study doesn't mention anything like that, but still, if we opt for that, so people exiting through Gibsons Way, they will have to go, and if they want to go to Upper Gibsons, they will have to take School Road. Obviously, in winter months could be a challenge, so they will have to go all around. So, yeah, exiting from this area to me is a problem. And the other solution that the traffic study gives, it's going 30K, which in theory, it's wonderful. But in practice, it never happens, because I drive all the time in Pratt Road. You see this car 70K. And Pratt Road, you have good visibility, but you get a place.
Sorry, I just want to clarify what you're talking about, because we're on to the next development now.
No, I'm talking about compliance. There's always a number of offenders that would speed. So I'm talking about risk. This is a corner that you have no visibility. Even Stonehurst, you have better visibility by the time you get there. But in this, you have. I was even driving today just to make sure that and I'm kind of, what's the risk? You have sometimes people coming with boats, you have big trucks, heavy, and if they pass the 30K, it could be a disaster. So obviously, any increase in density here is a concern. Mayor, what I would like to move forward is to talk about the shadow study. Can I talk about it? Because it could, the shadow study has implications in height, which has implication in density, which could even alleviate some of the problems of traffic, because if you have less people in this area, you would have less, potentially less risk. But are we ready to talk about shadow studies?
Yeah, well, I guess about traffic studies, we're kind of jumping past that. I don't know if Councillor Lumley's concerns are getting addressed here, but I mean, just this whole conversation makes me wonder, when I do look at, apparently that's professional rationale to be able to go to 2018 and add 2% every year. I mean, that's that's far more than our growth rate per year. So, I mean, I think it's more than double what our growth rate's been. So, and I know tourism is raised too, so it's probably to account for that is why it is double. But So that, I guess that's their rationale. But it kind of leads me to wonder too, I mean, okay, so what if this development were 30 units? What if it were 20 units? Like, that would probably be an increase in traffic too. That's also very modest. Is that something that council would also oppose because it's an increase in traffic, or council would also be concerned about? Because I guess what I'm seeing in the traffic study so far is that for this amount of units, it's a, and whether council trusts or believes it or not, it's pretty modest impact on.
Can I make one comment?
I'm just hoping to. Yeah, I don't have any councillors putting up their hands, so I'm done. But go ahead.
Okay, what I wanted to say is that the same development at a larger distance from the 5 corners would actually create more traffic. This is in the walkable village. We've done everything to make it walkable. You know, think about it. You know, the cars are there to meet your bylaw. You know, we meet the parking bylaw, 1.5 per unit and 1 for rental. So it's people's choice to use it or not. It's set in a location that if you want to walk, if you want to cycle, you can do that. If you take, you know, a comparison that you may find interesting is what happened at the corner of Taylor Way and Marine Drive when you want to go over the Lionsgate Bridge. I'm sure you all have been there. The discussion was, are these towers there okay? Yes, they are okay. The towers that are at distance, that are above the freeway, those ones create traffic because people have to go somewhere. They have to go to Park Royal, or they have to go to school, right? The towers that are right in the most busy spot create the least traffic because all the services are there. People can walk, people can, I mean, it's so logical. But, you know, just because it's close to the intersection actually creates less traffic. And it's such a beautiful, walkable area, and that is the whole focus of this project.
I've noted that Councillor Lumley lives closer to work these days, and sometimes I even see him walking to work. It's amazing. I can't believe it. I see him walking up and down the hill. Go ahead, Councillor Lumley.
Yeah, and I'd be willing to move first reading right now if the town and the developer, you know, I don't know, though, I'm not going to wordsmith it on the fly, but like I said, I'm in full, and I totally understand I get what Fritz is saying. It's kind of, and it's kind of dreamy to think that people are just going to start walking and biking everywhere, but I mean, and I have come down Taylor Way, and I have turned left on Marine Drive, and I have gone over the Lionsgate Bridge, and yeah, it's like, and I don't think saying that 5 corners has always been a problem. It's never going to, I guarantee Councillor Kroll, when he moved here, it wasn't as big of a problem. But just to say that it's always been a problem, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't find a solution to the problem. And maybe this development will be the solution to the problem. I mean, that would be my hope. But if somebody could find a way of structuring that we can find somehow, like a way to improve traffic flow at the same time as to move forward, then I would be all for that, and I would move it right now. I'd move first reading, but that's just my biggest concern, that the time will come and you go, well, yeah, it's always been a problem. Here's like 80 new people, you know, and then your next problem's parking, right? So it's all good. Like I said, I'm pretty exhausting. You're probably getting tired of hearing my voice, but I'd move first reading right now if we had some sort of commitment to work together and improve the traffic flow there.
I just wanted to comment. When I wasn't on council this last term and I saw Persephone Point coming up, I thought, oh, here's an opportunity, and there was a amenity agreement with that. I thought, here's an opportunity to fix 5 corners, with this development. So, it's kind of like, sometimes it is, but it's a big ask for one. It's really a town-wide problem. So that's the problem. Obviously, it didn't happen then, and it's not that this isn't going to be the silver bullet either of one development being able to solve a major traffic problem for the town. So it's, as the CAO acknowledged earlier, it's got to be approached more holistically. And I think you had your hand up on this, CAO. I am hoping for a little bit of guidance from staff here, whether it's planning department or the CAO, and maybe suggesting how we could have a look at this traffic concern the way that Councillor Lumley's suggesting, and maybe to move this development forward and just having some confidence that the traffic's being looked at.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as I said, we're confident that this will help us towards the additional work that we need to do. One of the things I wanted to point out, and you did mention that a bit, that when we're heading north on Gibsons Way, the development is on our left. All of that heavy landscaping that's there now, that doesn't allow you to see towards Seaview, that's to be pushed back and shaped differently, because that's mostly, we talk about the northeast corner of it, that knows that landscaping is deceiving and is blocking. That will have to be essentially cleaned up. There's I think even the walkability of it, that you want to walk around the front of the development per se as you head north. So we think even what's been proposed would already open that up more. And if you're coming down, you won't be able to see right into five corners, but we see a lot more than we see now because you're kind of walking. But if you're going down Gibson's Way on your right, that's sort of this mass, and that's to be shaven and taken back. And if you see on that airfoil there, that a lot of that is actually public right of way that needs to be addressed.
Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. Just a couple of points. Councillor Taylor had mentioned the view if you're driving north on North Fletcher coming off of School Road. One of the benefits of this project is that there will be a sidewalk, which there isn't there now. So you do have a bit more of a separation from what is currently the street and what would be new infrastructure. So I see that as a plus. Councillor Lumley mentioned, 80 more people, but all those vehicles aren't going to be trying to access Gibson's Way. A number of them will be on North Fletcher. I'd be happy to move first reading, and just with a query that Bunt confirm that their current statistics are in line with current traffic.
Yeah, I don't think that, I just want to go to staff. I saw staff's hand up before, maybe to help us move forward on the traffic piece, but I'm 100% certain that, Bunt will say yes, because they wouldn't have submitted that report if they didn't feel confident in their criteria for kind of projecting onto this year. So, I don't know if that'll satisfy the concerns. There might, hopefully, planning has a suggestion, though. Put the pressure on.
Through the mayor, I was going to ask a question just for clarification. So both the traffic studies indicate, or it says what they've found translates to the trip generation not expecting to have any material impact on the adjacent streets. So that's what the traffic professionals are telling us. We would rely on that. So if there's anything in the report that council feels is not to your standard, or you want more information on, we can ask them for that. But I need some kind of clarification on what part of it you need more information on in order to make this decision.
Yeah. Councillor D'Andretti? So long that it's the second one to wear out. Yeah. Our microphones are dying.
Thank you. I still would like to discuss the shadow study, because we received the shadow study and there is impact on neighborhood, but just to the traffic, The report suggests that, actually, to me, I understood that it's not even a suggestion, it's a must, that this part of the road, we have a 30K limit speed because of what's the site? Well, there's a...
Line of sight.
The line of sight is not clear. So are we committing that we are going to do that?
I don't think we'd necessarily do that in first reading. But it's also not something that we ask of the developer. It's something that council
I'm
council
asking,
needs to do,
yeah.
obviously, right? Yeah. Yeah. I'll look to-
Sorry, I wish the Director of Infrastructure Services was here to answer that, but I think we'd have to take the recommendations back and do some analysis and bring it back to council with which recommendations we would implement. And maybe that's what council could ask for, if that's something you want to know before this goes to third reading. You could ask for a report back on how we could improve the traffic flows.
CAO?
And further to the Director of Planning, I know it's on the radar for engineering to bring forward the 30 kilometers. There's a couple other areas we've been looking at as well that we wanted to suggest to council, so it would just be an additional area. I think that if you pass that recommendation, then we would comment on how best to implement that, whether it should include a little bit more of an area and so on. But it's on our radar, and I think we'd be happy to bring that back to council.
Okay, Councilor DeAndrade?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to discuss the winter, the shadow study, because in winter, the property on the side, which is the 553, it's completely in the dark for the winter months. And for a big part of spring and fall, not too drastically, but half of the property, pretty much. So most of the year, this property is going to be either half impacted or full in the shade. So that there's implications for, if they are, whatever, for health, we know that sun exposure is important. Sometimes it's mold that happens in the house because of lack of sun exposure. And this is a concern. In one hand, then there's the issue of views being impacted too. And this area is still under view protection. I understand that by law, if we move this, all the view protection in this lot are no longer valid. But I think it's important because it's a consideration. Suddenly you have a development that's going to block completely the views of certain people. One thing, it's very important because I go back to the OCP, which was award-winning, by the way, OCP. The OCP says, I understand the OCP guidelines is for high density, specifically residential tourist accommodation, but it also has guidelines. The harbor plan has guidelines for this area. And they talk about guideline 5.1.2 says, in order to maintain a village scale and character in Gibsons Harbor, building height should be limited to 1 or 2 stories on the higher side of the lot and 3 to 4 stories as seen from the lower side. So even though the guidelines for residential tourist accommodation allow 3 to 4 stories, there's a guideline where this is allowed because we're in a steep slope. And this is not being contemplated. And that's my concerns of developments in this area.
Yeah, it sounds like the last one, we're starting to do the final debate again here, and we don't have a motion on the table. I feel like maybe a motion with the traffic considerations might be something that council's interested in here. Sorry, Fritz, I can't ask you to make a motion. I'm looking to everybody else here.
But I thought we're also here to answer questions from councillors. This question, I mean.
Okay, was it a question? Sorry, I do need to kind of keep order of the meeting here, but is there a question then?
I can ask a question.
I heard it as more of
No,
a, we're
I can ask a
opposition
question
to.
for you, Mayor.
Yeah.
Why, if we have clear guidelines that avoid shadow studies, because if the heights of the buildings follow the guidelines, there won't be this block. We can look at here, winter, it's completely blocked, the property. Full winter. So that's why these guidelines are not being considered, if it's there.
I don't, these are guidelines in the OCP about
It's on the
shadow
harbor.
studies.
It's on the harbor plan, and there's a guideline on the OCP that says when guidelines disagree with each other, the ones on the harbor, on the neighborhood plans have precedent. So this guideline has precedent over all the other guidelines. And we are discussing form and character for,
I'm having flashbacks from the Stonehurst,
Yeah.
long years and years of debate on Stonehurst, because we recognized during that whole conversation that there's some confusing language and conflict in the OCP, and I see Councillor DeAndrade shaking her head, but there are just conflicting opinions on this. And Councillor DeAndrade, you have one interpretation, and there are others as well. And that's a big reason why we need to update our OCP to make it very clear on view protection and some of these other matters, so it isn't kind of open to interpretation the way it is now. Councillor Lumley.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the shadow studies as well. Opposite, maybe, but I don't understand. Maybe, Mayor, you could tell me why there's a shadow study for 4 p.m. in the winter on December. Aren't we all in the dark at 4 p.m. in the winter of December? Like, aren't the shadows like some of this? I get it. It's very nice to do, and comparables would be nice as well, to see comparables on other projects around town and shadows cast. But sometimes I was actually kind of impressed with the shadow study in the summer, right? I just figure the winter months shadow studies aren't that important because I think it's dark at 4 or 4:30. So I wasn't even sure how that was generated. So, but anyway, that was my question.
Yeah, it's pretty dark by that time of day. But yeah, it's up to individual councillors to receive the information and give our own weight to it and own interpretation to it. And I appreciate Councillor DeAndrade's got really strong views on the shadow studies and impact of shadows. So I don't think we're going to change those at this meeting, but we've all got our different takes on all the information we receive. But I'm hoping it felt like a bit earlier in this meeting or in this discussion, I even heard Councillor Lumley say, use the phrase first reading. And with some interest and maybe some more traffic consideration. So I don't know if anyone has thank you, Councillor Kroll. Maybe a proposed wording.
Well, I was prepared to second Councillor Lumley's meeting. He was sort of looking for some comments with regard to traffic. So I think staff and the developer are aware of what we're trying to do with respect to Five Corners. The Director of Planning indicated that, Bunt are, the report that has been given is as accurate as is possible under the current circumstances. So, I would be certainly willing to move that we give this first reading. And if Councillor Lumley wanted to add something with regard to, I'm comfortable feeling that staff are aware of the traffic issues, so I would just leave it as first reading.
Okay, I'm not going to take a seconder yet because I think we might, there goes that one. Yeah, okay. Councillor Lumley, do you want to try to get some clearer language out of that? I thought I saw you put your hand up to address your concerns.
If somebody, if somebody could come up with the phrase, and I don't want the project, I don't want you to spend, or I'm not asking the people in charge of this project to spend more money on exhaustive traffic search. But if we can, you know what, I would just move first motion and come up with some ideas to help alleviate, work together to help alleviate some potential concerns. And I'm not, and as far as and I get it, it's municipal, it's government, and it's okay, if we were gonna do anything with Five Corners, we'd have to have all these hire these consultants, have exhaustive, but surveys done and drawings and, but what'd be nice is if we got together and said, hey, this'll probably work, or here's 3 ideas, send them to somebody and say, hey, what's up with this, right? Maybe it can't be done, but if you want to word something, I'll move first reading with some sort of traffic.
Okay, so, I mean, we could move first reading with the addition that staff further consider traffic concerns in the Five Corners area. And I think that implies working with the developer too, and getting the developer's ideas and the developer's representation. I recognize Fritz is the architect here representing the developer. But I think, a lot of this needs to be staff having this consideration. It might involve, I'll talk to the CAO about it. It might involve having a workshop where council can come and we can all kind of hash out some ideas. Maybe, yeah. Or other, even public, yeah, engage the public too. But we've got some time to do that. But so that wording was, first reading as written, but also that staff further consider traffic concerns in the Five Corner area. We might look at a couple different options, but yeah, if that's okay. Okay, so Councillor Lumley is moving that, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Sorry, we're voting now.
It's a discussion, I said, I have something to say.
I had to call the question. I said any more discussion.
Mayor, with all respect, you have to wait, because I leave mine and look. So, why yes? After.
Okay, I said any more discussion.
No,
I
thank
know
you.
this one's gone, but I didn't get an answer to that.
Well, I just want to bring to, because something was said here that is not true. The shadow study shows from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and maybe 4 p.m. is not considered, but it's dark the whole day. And then during spring and fall, half of the building from 2 to 4 actually starting 12, for half of the lot is shadowed. So it's just a clarification, because it's concerning to me.
Any more discussion on the motion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Councilor Andretti opposed. And now we have committee reports. So we've got a couple of three recommendations. These are just straightforward recommendations straight from the committee. We can pass them all at once if we want, as one omnibus motion if we want, or one by one. Yeah, I don't know how well this is working with the public broadcast when.
I don't know. I mean, we got that microphone right there.
Yeah, Councillor Kroll, can you hear us? Yeah, okay, okay. Okay, Councillor DeAndretti?
The fact that we adopted the guidelines for small village character, because I was going to make a motion that or maybe the society.
Okay, sorry, nobody can hear Councillor DeAndretti, but I mean, I think I can answer this, is that the intent of passing those guidelines earlier was definitely, most definitely that, I mean, form and character of this development is still being worked on, as with any development that falls within the Seaside Village character guidelines in the OCP. So the intent is definitely that staff would be working with the developer on having a look at those guidelines and seeing if we can.
Thank you. There was a discussion on accessibility on Billy's Walk, and I don't know where we are left at this point. Are we asking, yeah, I would like to ask the developer to bring something back to address accessibility. I don't think everybody can go on this walk. Thank you.
I guess that may or may not happen. I mean, I'm not even sure what the concern is, but yeah, Councillor Kroll? I mean, Billy's Walk is the entire development.
Yeah.
That's the name of the entire development.
I think what Councillor D'Andretti is saying is currently you can't go from North Fletcher to Gibsons Way walking if you have an accessibility issue. We raised it at the ADP. The developer addressed it when he brought it to council and said they're looking at putting in a lift between the parking on North Fletcher and the playground area within the complex that would make that possible. I think it's a work still in progress.
Okay, so I'd like to move to committee reports. We've got 7.1.2 is a development permit authorization for Garden Suite at 914 Davis Road. This was already discussed in committee and passed there, moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Lumley. Any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Yeah, that motion carries. And then Aquifer Protection Regulation Updates, DPA 9 and Water Regulation Bylaw number 1192. Got a recommendation here, moved by Councillor DeAndretti, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion? All those in favor? That motion carries. And then the source to see final report recommendation is here at 7.1.4, moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor DeAndretti. Any discussion? All those in favor? That motion carries. And then we have our permissive property tax exemptions. We're getting back to that. And we have some recommendations from earlier today, but I think we'll take a break before we get back to this item completely. It's a 5-minute break.
or if we're curious, we ask.
Yeah, so this is, I asked. Yeah, this is what I did, I said, is your view just?
I'll just, what I'm gonna do is I'll send
We have to, yeah.
discussions all will, because it's costing us this kind of money.
I like the way you worded this.
Actually, something like this could be, this would count by 7%.
We go on the camera for this?
Not unless we have I mean, we've got that other material regarding finances. If there's anything like that fits the community charter of going in camera on this, I think, I mean, there might actually be some things. So we could go on camera. That was his question I just got from a counselor, so.
No one's here, so it doesn't matter. I guess
Well.
camera.
I
I know it's public, but.
Remember when the community poll meeting was public and I noted some fairly frank and wide open discussion on individual items there. So I wasn't aware of anything.
Oh, everything there was in public. I just had a question of whether we can go in camera, and I presume that might be to talk about some of the finances of these organizations and things. That might be a reason to go on camera, and if that's what. Okay, that's okay apparently. So we could make this first recommendation here, just to get that over with. We've got a 4-point recommendation of the considerations we already had from Committee of the Whole this morning, which was a recommendation. I hear Councillor Lumley may want to change it though, so I'm going to put it on Councillor Lumley to put this forward with any changes.
Yeah, I found the last paragraph confusing as far as how it was worded. I wondered if you could word it to state that the organization receiving fees for services not be expected to receive permissive tax exemptions.
I'm completely confused by that last wording too, so we may have to work on that a bit.
So you're saying that people that get fees for services have to seek compensation through other revenue sources that fund their services? So you're saying people that get fees for services need to go get grants, I guess?
I'm completely confused by the whole concept.
Okay.
What I proposed was just simply saying, and maybe I'm off here, maybe I'm not thinking about an example, but I thought we could go more broadly than this and just say any organizations leasing private
Commercial.
private commercial real estate or private commercial properties.
There you go.
Receive fee-for-service contract revenues, be ineligible for FTEs.
I don't know if it's even, so where are we trying, where do we want to open it up for nonprofits that aren't receiving fee for service? Because where do we want to, I mean, when I hear that additional qualification about the receiving fee for service, it makes me ask, well, which are we wanting to allow other nonprofits that aren't in that situation to qualify? Is that why we're saying that? Can't we just say nonprofits leasing private commercial? I think we're trying to.
Well, what you're trying to do if you have that additional point is say, look, if your activities pay you money for your real estate costs, there's no point asking us for additional benefit. If you're an organization, however, that relies on donations, charitable receipts, so on and so forth, you don't have any kind of contracts, nobody's specifically covering you for real estate. Depending on what you do, council might consider doing a PT. There aren't a lot of those organizations, but they're out there.
Okay, yeah, so those are two
And they
distinct
do
options
lease
for council.
commercial
Do
space.
we wanna open it up to those organizations that aren't receiving funding? Or are we just saying, no, we're not open to organizations that are leasing private space? Cause I'm more of the latter, I just find that whole situation confusing.
You can still lease private space, but not take fees for your services.
Okay. Well, I think there are two different, I feel like we passed it by saying, I mean, we'd have to look at the video, but I feel like we passed the more broad language, and I guess this is what staff came up with though, so that was the recommendation, so we'll use this language, I guess, and we can change it. I don't agree with it, but.
It's just a recommendation, we adopted as recommended.
And when the policy is updated, there'll be another chance to get the language exactly right and the intent of what council wants to end up with finished or clarified and finished at that point.
You didn't like my wording? Okay. Well, I don't know what that was, but I just thought, I thought we were going more broad when we passed the motion, with just organizations leasing private commercial property be ineligible, period.
Yeah.
I thought that's what we passed.
Say that again?
I mean, that general. Organizations leasing private commercial property be ineligible.
Except,
Okay, but that's what we passed. I know, maybe you could vote no, but
no, I just.
I think maybe staff was trying to capture what you said, Stafford, but I don't know if that's what the rest of us.
He may have failed to capture it.
Well, I think maybe you captured what Stafford was trying to say.
But the finance had commented that they have the ability to show the difference in market rental as a tax deduction. So that's what you're gonna hear back from somebody that might be leasing space. As long as they have a letter from supporting the difference between the market rate and the tax. That's kind of what you said, right?
Yeah, they have a letter, but the other issue is that, I mean, it's covered in the charter, but our policy doesn't have to do, we're talking about two things, we're talking about the recommendation, and then we're also talking about policy. And just because something is allowed in the policy doesn't mean that has to be that's allowed in the charter doesn't have to be in our policy.
Okay, alright, I'll go with yours then.
Okay, we'll go with that one, the language that,
No, yours.
Yours,
yeah,
not this one, yours.
yeah. Leasing private commercial property be ineligible. Just make it simple.
Yeah.
Because we don't have any that fit in there in our current list, so.
Because there always been an avalanche of people
I'm really coming from like we've had this conversation for the whole term now, and I feel like council's coming from a place where we're not looking to we're concerned about tax equity and we're concerned about being able to just have financial sustainability in the town and afford asset management, and we're not looking to say we want more tax exemptions. That's not the message we're trying to. Unfortunately, we're having to tighten our belts on a lot of things, and we've been doing that since we started. So that's the message here. So I think we've got the language there. Does someone want to put forward a motion? Moved by Councillor D'Andretti. Okay, so hey, I'm the chair. I saw you, Councillor D'Andretti, so you moved it. Seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? Motion carries, so we've got 3 down. I wanted to go to, if we're gonna get into we could go 2 ways here, there's 2 different, let's try to knock some off that might be easier. Could I just want to try one. you could try second, but, if we're gonna, we talked about the churches, maybe we can get closer in the churches if we cancel some out that are a bit different. I do feel it was already raised by Councillor Cole that, I think it was Councillor Cole, but I think maybe others brought it up too, that St. Bart's really does a lot of work, for the community outside of, just the congregation. And they've detailed that in their application, which is what we asked for. So I want to propose continuing to give them a 100% tax exemption. And that's seconded by Councillor Kroll, I saw first. And any discussion on that? Yeah, Councillor Thompson.
I agree, and I think that the examples that they lead in the community of yearly changing the support that's required as needed is impressive.
So that's for 2 years?
Did they, sorry, I read about, did they provide the number of, because they open a daycare, right, it's gonna start running, it's gonna start running a daycare. Did they provide the number?
I don't know if, is it relevant to whether we're gonna vote yes or no on this? I mean,
Well, to me, that was one of the different things they've
Sure.
done. And they said it's gonna be almost full time, but I was
yeah,
curious.
sounds good to me. Can we vote?
So it doesn't matter the amount, if it's just for.
Okay, well, if it's not enough for you, then, I mean, that's like, I'm just gonna, we're trying to move, like, we can dive into all the details here, like, I'm just trying to get past the easy ones here. So all those in favor? That motion carries. Councillor Thompson, did you have one?
I would like to suggest that the legal not built that is receiving a statutory exemption not be supported 100%.
Okay, I need more detail. Are we at 0 or are we 50, or are we, like, if it's not 100, what is it?
0.
Okay. So can you give me the address?
Is
Sure.
roll number 114010. No address.
Okay,
Can I say
there's
again?
no address, that's roll for Christ the King Community Church of Gibsons, so that'd be the,
There's no address, it's not built.
yeah.
It's next door. It's the-
Well, I'm
the
very
joint
familiar, I'm
lot.
just trying to make sure that it's the empty lot there, yeah,
Oh,
we
it's
know.
on the corner.
I know, I just wanna make sure we capture be specific about what it is.
What's
So that's
that
the roll
amount?
number, I think we all know what it
No,
is, so
they don't
that's,
have it. Yeah.
so that's gonna be, that's, a tax exemption is not supported at all for that property. So, correction there. It's been seconded. Discussion,
They're saying 0%?
Councillor Kroll?
Thank you, Mayor White. To Councillor Thompson's point, there are several legal but not built. So I think we should just capture them all in the one motion.
That's the one so far. Like,
Well, there's the church one, there's the art gallery one, and there's the Legion one.
There you go. Yeah.
There's 3.
Is that amended motion then? Or? I agree.
I think I'm gonna take that as an amendment, because it is a little significant. People may not agree with that.
Can I second the amended?
Yeah, you can second the amendment.
Okay, I second it.
Any discussion on making it all? I'm sorry, we've got so many meetings here. This is committee of the whole. And I don't get much time in between to. Are we looking at the committee of the whole agenda for some, this isn't all up on the regular council agenda?
No, committee of the whole.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's item 7.2.1 on the regular council agenda, but the report is attached to the committee of the whole agenda.
Okay,
So people are flipping between.
yeah. I'm still looking at the page number.
I'm just staring at the chart.
Page number 131.
Okay, I'm almost there. Yeah, that's the one I'm looking for, okay. Councillor Thompson.
I don't agree with the amendment. I put forward that motion, and the reason is that particular lot is a developable lot that is sitting empty versus the Gibsons Public Art Gallery, which is just a corner off of their parking space, so I don't necessarily put it in the same category.
I disagree. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Councilor Thompson on this. I think they're all very different to me. I think we should look at them differently. So, are there any other comments on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment? The amendment carries. So now we've got an amended motion. So that's looking at. So I want to be clear here. This would now be taxing $6,227 for Christ the King Community Church for the legal not built property. This would be these are the outcomes here. $1,332 would be the 2024 taxation, just as example now for Gibson's Public Art Gallery, for that little triangle of property that's impossible to build upon, right? And the Legion, that one is $15,463. So, and we talked earlier, I just want to remind council, we talked earlier about maybe phasing these. So this amendment that has been passed is now going to hit the Legion with a $15,000 bill. And I'm totally unsupportive of that. I'm really sorry I can't support it personally, but that's the amended motion now. So, Director?
Yeah. Yes, Mayor, I just wanted to confirm that yes, with the Gibsons Public Art Gallery, that's undevelopable land.
Yeah.
And with the Legion, that's almost fully developed as parking lot.
So I don't think we're really speeding things up by grouping it. That's why I'm trying to do things one by one, and it's like doing these blanket things is just going
Actually, I
to
got
down.
even confused with that amended motion, I'm sorry.
So I'm putting forward that amended motion. Let's vote on it. All those in favor?
Okay, can you repeat the amended motion, please?
The amended motion is for taxing all three of these properties 100%.
Let's hear from David.
Well,
He's been working with the Legion.
I know, but David,
We've
I mean,
purchased that lot for 8 years.
Yeah. I mean, I think David put forward the amendment because David does agree with the taxation. If I do question about whether it's wise to do it all at once. I mean, I don't.
You know, some of these people, you know, to put it bluntly, need a wake-up call. And, you know, we can put this forward at zero, and maybe they'll get their act together and come back with an appeal next year to say, hey, we're doing this. But, you know, a number of these people know it's been on the radar, and there's been absolutely no reaction from them.
We could just vote, or we're not.
Gonna debate it?
Well, we can. I just wanted to go ahead, corporate officer.
Is it acceptable to the mover and the seconder that the phrasing is citizen to be granted 0% courtesy time would be omitted from the tax exemption? Wouldn't it be that you would simply omit them the way we did for the Sunshine Coast Community Services Society?
Yeah, they're not, there's no tax exemption anymore. Yeah, that's absolutely what the consequence would be. Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm against the motion. I don't think that the three relate to each other.
Okay, I agree, I'm against the
Okay,
motion.
all those in favor of the motion? All those opposed to the motion? That motion's defeated. Now,
The little triangle.
let's quit trying to speed things up by lumping everything together, because we're always gonna find things like this. I mean, I
The
think we
little
can.
triangle is easy to decide. We cannot do the Gibsons.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to, we had a motion earlier, it got amended. I think we can still consider it wasn't defeated, so.
I would like to go back to my original motion of
Rule 14.010, legal not built. You know, I would ask before we jump into this, do we want to phase that over 2 years? We have the option. Just remind me of that here. Do we want to say this is a statement? This is a totally developable piece of property. This is different.
Yes.
Councillor Kroll?
I was gonna recommend phasing it.
Okay, I need more than that. Does anyone have?
Somewhere between.
I think you said, no.
It was a 0%.
Yeah.
That is my motion on
So
a
the
developable piece of land
So
without
this
pavement
is-
that is sitting empty.
This would be to say no tax exemption, as our corporate officer clarified. Yeah. Is there a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Lumley. Any conversation on this one, any discussion? All those in favor? The motion carries. Now it's been suggested that we go to the other legal not built for the Gibsons Public Art Gallery, which is undevelopable.
Okay, I'll put a motion,
Yeah.
100%, because I don't think we can develop.
Seconding.
Seconded, so that's 100% for 2 years. Any more discussion on this?
Well, like who wants, should they just not be encouraged to like, just, is there ways that they can just incorporate into an existing lot and you don't have an undevelopable lot anymore? Like,
Yeah, they could apply to,
the town?
what do we call it, but they do an application to put them together, which costs money.
And then they're gonna pay more.
Yeah, they'll probably cost more than $1,000.
No, and they're gonna pay because now they have the land.
And what good is it for us?
We're not talking about 1 year of exemption or 2 years, we're talking, they've been exempt for years and years, right? I mean, I'm sure finance, they have better things to do, they could.
Can you hear Councillor Kroll? Can you hear Councillor Lumley?
I can. I just wanted to, can I put
just-
some
I just wanna
background?
Remind everybody, we don't have microphones, so we probably, in order for Councillor Kroll to hear, we probably need to
Yeah.
project ourselves a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, we got this one?
Yeah, those two should work.
Yeah, but I'm trying to.
Is there any more ready? I think I can have.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Kroll.
That little undevelopable piece, that used to be a ramp that went up to Gibson's Way. And it was a great source of accidents. People were burning out their clutches on it. You know, it was a joke. So I'm assuming the town at one point may have transferred that property. Well, it is a problem piece of property, but it's ludicrous that they're getting a tax credit on something that's useless.
Yeah, it could go both ways, so.
But if they deeded it back to the town for whatever reason we would want it, then it just takes it off the books and it gets a municipal exemption.
I think for whatever reason we would want it, I think was the.
May I, Mr. Mayor? I recall the director of engineering had suggested that we work with the art gallery to create a set of stairs there, make them more accessible. Right now, that driveway was somewhat abruptly closed and it's quite steep to come out. And when we were planning the Pioneer Park site, the art gallery expressed interest in working with us on creating a decent set of stairs or even a more accessible ramp, which would use up that area as an option.
Yeah, I even wonder about how cycling access through there. But I think working with the art gallery, I'm hearing, is probably the best way of doing this and not trying to expropriate the land or try to convince them to sell it to us or anything like that. So I think we should probably, if these conversations are going on with the art gallery to make it a public use, we should give it a tax exemption.
If that's going to be the case.
Any more discussion on this one?
Do we need to make a recommendation for staff to work with them?
No, I hear they're already doing it. I just want to, but yeah. Some of these are going to be harder, I think. So, yeah, somebody's, all those in favor? The motion carries. Do we want to go to the rest of the art gallery at this point? We could go that angle. We could go to the other.
rather go with an old view because we got
Okay,
this
sure.
frame.
Which one is that? Oh, yeah, no, let's go to the art gallery. I'm trying to do the easy ones, Councillor DeAndrade. So the art gallery, what are we looking at? So this is like a $18,000 tax exemption they're getting. There's the gallery itself, which is a public art gallery. And then the parking, I think the parking around it is important to recognize that Councillor Lumley said we should build a new parkade earlier today, but like, it is basically public parking.
Yeah.
It's very valuable public parking, and they don't enforce it heavily and prohibit people from parking there who are using other commercial buildings down there. I'm sure Councillor Lumley's somewhat. Yeah, when they have art gallery events, they put cones up.
And Mayor, I wonder if, since we are paying for their taxes, I don't know if they are using 100% all the time, all their parking. Perhaps if we have a better understanding, we can even request that some parking could be pay parking for town and, I mean, this is all possible, but I would make a motion to support 100% because of this. I think they provide, what you said.
So that's 100% for 2 years, moved by Councillor DeAndrade, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion on this one? All those in favor? That motion carries. Okay, where do we want to go from here?
Building society.
Okay. So that's Gibsons Community Building Society. That current exemption is at 21,000, and this is a more complex one because it's got limited parking there that we have a lot of agreements about, or needing to renew things and over the time work with the marina and stuff. But did you want to have a proposal on that, Councillor DeAndrade?
Yeah, well, it's the rationale because when I was talking to the financial director of finance, I remember the conversation. He said that commercial property cannot be exempt. But then, I mean, based on my question today, I think my understanding is in this particular case, because they're probably not charging, I don't know if they are charging taxes to all the vendors there, right? But I think my first thought is because they have people, a commercial establishment there, shouldn't they be taxing these people? And then we would exempt just the remaining. But then if this is part of their fundraising model, then it's kind of justifiable, I think. And that's why I ask if it's legal,
And that's why BC Assessment has accepted council in the past giving 100%
Okay.
exemption there.
Yeah.
Because they see it as an ancillary fundraising activity for the nonprofit that's got the lease for the whole
Exactly.
project.
So social enterprise kind of, yeah. Moved by Councillor Lumley, 100 on, and seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any further discussion on this one? All those in favor? All those opposed? That motion carries.
Q1 is easy.
Okay. I heard Councillor DeAndrade suggest Kiwanis first, so
Yeah.
let's, I saw Councillor Kroll too, but we'll go there next. So, did you second that? Councillor Kroll? Kiwanis? I think he was coming up with something else. Did anyone want to second Kiwanis?
Yeah, no, I was coming out with something else.
Yeah, I'll go to you next. Seconded by Councillor Thompson.
100%, right?
Yeah, so this would be 100% exemption. So why does it say,
They have the small statutory exemption.
They have a small statutory, that's interesting, yeah.
The town is making up, well, whatever the balance.
The balance is, okay, yeah. So, yeah, I've forgotten that seniors housing can get a statutory exemption, or in addition to churches?
Certain kinds.
Certain kinds, yeah, yeah.
Through BC assessments perspective, because I have seen some where people have said, what's the difference? And one has and one doesn't, so.
It's related to the period of which it was built. I'm not sure if that would be the case
Okay.
today, but it has to do with when the building was originally built, and it finds itself within this historical clause that if it was built, and this building was built, I think, in 1973, so it's captured in an area where it's considered, it has a statutory exemption.
Okay, so that one, are we saying that it's a 72% exemption, or just saying that it's,
I think
well, we're making up the difference, I don't know.
it's 100% on whatever it is, right?
Yeah, 100% on the remainder.
100% on the remainder, okay. So that's the motion for the 2 years. Councillor Kroll?
I'll second that. A query I would have for staff is when they redevelop, because it's now a new building, would they lose that status that they currently have on the statutory?
Well, now that you've mentioned it in a public meeting, they're going to for sure. Probably not, but yeah. We'll see, That's up to BC assessment. Or no, it's up to, I don't even know where it's up to, but it's not up to us.
Right, and council here is going up to the 100%, so if on a new property, there was no more statutory provided, council might still continue to say, yeah, whatever, it's gonna be 100%.
Yeah, I think we have to, yeah. So that's good that it's worded that way. Any more discussion on Kiwanis?
Affordable Housing Society.
No, we haven't voted. Any more discussion on Kiwanis? All those in favor? The motion carries. Councillor Kroll.
I was just voting.
Oh, sorry, I thought you had your hand up to go next.
No, it was something else. Just carry on.
Okay. We can tackle the Affordable Housing Society, 2 properties there. This is one we've had discussions on in the past because it's a bit different from Kiwanis, because Kiwanis is all affordable. These ones are a combination of market and affordable prices, both of them, I believe. Though the Franklin Road has stayed at the same rate that it started at, is something they always point out for. And that's what Kiwanis talks about too, is all these, the rates that they set usually don't change because they're all set ahead of time to make sure they just pay the mortgage they have with CMHC, and they're nonprofits, so they're not collecting any profit beyond that. And then I think something else that we've talked about in the past is that the market rents help keep the other rents low. And then the market rents are also made as low as possible for these. Because these are nonprofits, there's no profit incentive here. So I think that's in the past, that's justified the 100% that council's decided, so.
100% for Frankly, because right now they are below
Okay.
market.
Are you
They are considered affordable.
both or just
Let's do
Franklin?
one at a time,
Okay.
because it's all separated.
Okay, so Councillor DeAndrade is moving Franklin, seconded by Councillor Kroll. Any discussion on this one? All those in favor? All those opposed? Opposed by Councillor Lumley. And what's next? So that one passes.
Now it should be Shaw Road,
Okay.
right?
Though technically it's not Shaw Road anymore.
Oh, yeah.
So it's some address for O'Shea. We all have to call it O'Shea now, after calling it Shaw for 10 years. So, yeah, that's the other affordable housing that's listed as 571 Shaw Road here. So that's moved by Councillor DeAndrade to do what, though?
No, I haven't moved, I just
Okay,
want
okay.
to make a point. Because in
Who wants to move one?
Oh, we want to move?
Counselor Kroll.
I'll leave it status quo.
So Counselor Kroll's moving 571 Shaw Road Affordable Housing Society to stay at 100% for 2 years. Is there a seconder for that? I'll second it because I think we need to have this conversation. So what are people's concerns about this one? I'll say I've thought long and hard about this because it's market. Some of these units are market, but we've worked really closely with the Affordable Housing Society. Like, there's a lot of town investment in this, really. It's kind of a town project. It's town property, and it has been for affordable housing. And the market housing is workforce housing, which we desperately need, and seniors housing. I'm totally confident that the Affordable Housing Society's intent here is keeping rents as low as possible, even for the market. There's no question that's what they're trying to do, and there's no profit motivation. There's no investors to pay off like any private private project would need. These mortgages are through CMHC. So I can totally justify continuing to do it 100%. And we know that they don't have any way of, it's not like they have, this is a investment company with other ways to pay this off. It's going to go straight to the rents if it's going to have to. There's no other way of finding the $17,000 or whatever else.
And we will be
It's $17,500 basically here, so.
And we will be revising this in 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm just concerned because it's getting expensive. By the time you finish the other 30, it's going to be 30-something, which is 1% tax on everybody, but I'll support right now.
Okay, it is the.
Second? Yeah.
Yeah. So I seconded it, I think, and yeah, so that's, any other discussion of this? All those in favor? All those opposed? Opposed by Councillor Lumley. Where do we want to go to next? Community Services Society Thrift Store. This is an interesting one. Because they've talked to us about developing this as affordable housing. They're still interested in doing it. Is it in their application, though? I think it says something about that. This is $12,000, $12,517. So it's significant. And there's no question, we've supported this one in the past because it is like that whole social enterprise aspect of it is having a thrift store that pays for, again, really valuable public social services in our community, is that what the revenue of the store is going to. And it's secondly, it's owned by a nonprofit that is interested in building affordable housing there. So I think those are the reasons why we've been giving it a exemption. But I think, do we need to send some kind of message? We could also just say we're going to continue your exemption, but we want to see plans and we want to see movement on a housing. We can give them that message.
We are being really harsh with the church, for example, Christian church. I know they have an empty lot, but.
Well, I don't want to talk about decisions we've already made so much. Like, that's not a good practice. Yeah.
So I would give just 75%, for example, they can come up with. I know they're fundraising for the other building as well.
Yeah, they're fundraising for another building desperately. which is another really valuable affordable housing project for the Sunshine Coast that's going to serve people from Gibsons. Councillor Kroll?
I would move that we keep it as it is and ask for a commitment within 12 months that they have a definite housing plan in place for this property.
Okay. I think that language will work.
I didn't quite understand what you were seeking to do with a letter of commitment.
I think that's going a bit too far indeed. We'd want a housing plan in place for this property. So, yeah, I mean, I think if they give us something that satisfies that request, that'll work. A letter of commitment might be one, but maybe they'll send us some plans. Maybe they'll just be working with BC Housing and show us that. That work, Councillor Kroll? Was there a seconder for that one? Yeah, seconded by Councillor D'Andretti. Any more discussion on this one, community services? All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's in favor. So that one passes unanimously.
Let's face the Legion.
Do we have to, yeah, okay, we'll face the Legion.
Start with the Legion.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the easy, I think that's the hardest one, but whatever people want, well, it's $15,463. Do you have a suggestion for handling it, Councillor D'Andretti?
Well, based on the approach we took with the church, and we also approached them to, okay, just for clarification, they will not build, it's the lot on the side.
It's a lot with all the trees on it, along School Road.
Okay.
I saw other hands up. I think I missed Councillor Thompson.
Sorry, I was going to say, the document that's really helpful that pertains to that is from our committee, the whole meeting, that shows the aerial view mapping that was provided to us, and it does explain these areas very well as a reference if you need that.
So we could go, yeah, we could go, just refuse the exemption, I think, is what I'm hearing from Councillor D'Andretti.
50%.
Or phase.
Is it? Or just, are you saying, Councillor D'Andretti, you're suggesting 50%
I'm just
for 2 years?
if we use the approach for the church.
Thompson?
If you look at the photos, this is actually green space with trees. In my opinion, I don't see it as comparable.
In that I mean, and they do mention it is used as green space. I think they say children use it. I don't see that so much, but people use it. I definitely see people hanging out underneath those trees, enjoying the shade.
Yeah.
So there is that public value to it.
I feel that green space has that value for sure.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Kroll?
You know, it has been discussed at the Legion. They've already been talking to realtors about selling that property off for redevelopment to give them a financial quick fix to support the rest of the property. So, you know, it's a difficult one. I would be inclined to phase it to maybe get their attention, because if the Legion combined both their properties, this property could be maintained as green space and they could redevelop the existing space at a higher density with the total square footage of the combined lots. So I think what, you know, they need the incentive to move forward with redeveloping their properties, which for the last, since February of 2019, that they have not been doing. So I would recommend phasing it.
Councillor Lemley, you have any thoughts on this one? Just trying to get us toward a motion. Okay, I mean, we could phase it by saying 75 first year, 50 second year as an exemption. And I think, we need to look at the number here, because that giving them a 75% exemption is still going to be a pretty significant amount of money for them to come up with without completely breaking the bank, I'd imagine. I know Councillor Crowell, you probably know their financial situation better than the rest of it, but I hear it's pretty tight.
Yeah, they are very tight, but they've had options on the tables for several years, and they always seem to have an excuse why not. Like, I know they provide a lot of services to the community, but we gave them the option of rising to the challenge of meeting the community need for housing, and that just hasn't happened.
Okay,
And
so
they've even, Lisa Helps met with them, offered to take them by the hand to get them through the housing process. Zero response.
Yeah, one aspect I have to say is we're trying to encourage some of these, and we're doing it with our own property too. We're really trying to make use of property for affordable housing. We've been doing that significantly in the town. And we did, particularly Councillor Crowell, did a lot of work to connect the Legion with BC Housing, and I don't think that's mentioned in the application. I don't remember seeing that. So that's shocking to me in a way, that's exactly what we're trying to encourage here, and it's not even mentioned. So that's disappointing.
And Naomi Brennemeyer offered to meet with them as well.
Yeah.
Again, ignored.
Yeah, and then Cover the Coast has been working with them as well and trying to work with them anyway. Yeah. So did I hear Councillor Crowell 75% in 2025, 50% 2026 phased approach?
Yes.
As a motion? Yeah. So that's being moved by Councillor Crowell. Exemption for this Legion property. But I'm not seeing a seconder. Okay, second.
I was just contemplating because in the initial conversation we said.
I've got a seconder. Okay, you seconded it, right? I just need a seconder and then we can talk about it more. Okay. Did you want to talk now? Yeah.
Yeah, Mayor, it's just because at the beginning we said we would not do, first we said we would do an phase-out approach, but then we didn't do with some of the other ones, and now it will be totally individual.
Well, I don't think everyone agreed. You brought that up earlier. I don't think everyone agrees with you on that. The other comment was this is a treed property that does have some public use.
No, in terms of phased approach, because we have not used a phased-out approach for anyone. So I'm just looking at consistency. So that's my only issue.
Well, like I said, these are getting harder. We tried to do some easier ones at the start, and they're not all going to be the same. So this might be the first one we do a phased approach. Maybe we're going to do it on some others.
Okay.
Any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? So I think that's an abstention. Yeah, so that one passes. And 130, so I'm looking. There are two other Legion. The one's irrelevant, right? It's completely, yeah.
Mayor White, They're
Sorry.
the same property and it's just being shown on this sheet between the part, class 6 that BC assessment will never agree. That's, I think, maybe has driven the history here too. So the part that BC assessment would accept, class 8 has been 100%, and then the class 6, 0 from everyone.
The class 8 is where the hall is, versus the class 6 side is where the lounge and the pool table part is of that building.
Okay. I'm still a little confused, just trying to get my head around that one. 'Cause I don't,
Yeah, I wonder if this grid is incorrect, because maybe I'm confused, because 6 is commercial, right? And why is 0%? So we are not giving them any, okay. So that's
Yeah.
correct, yeah.
For example, I have worked for some local governments where council has tried,
Yeah.
so no statutory, and then council said 100% on the class 6, and then BC assessment has come along and denied it. And they
Okay.
have all the,
Okay, perfect.
I see now that is taxable. They have been paying those taxes, and that's we're just seeing that here as part of it. So it's a 7,121 we're really considering here, which is 100% tax exemption on the rest of the property.
Well, okay, I'll move to continue the same.
Sorry, I've got Councillor Kroll on. So Councillor Kroll.
I was going to move it, but if Councillor Danvetti wants to move it, I'll second it.
So this is
So to leave the part that's under class 6, to leave it at the full 100%.
No, we cannot. Oh, sorry, I'm really confused.
Okay, I want to. We do need to look ahead a little here. What are our thoughts about parking? Because this is going to kind of dictate what we maybe we're recognizing the community contribution here and saying this is like St. Bart's Church, so we'll give them 100% to recognize for their parking versus a different approach for parking that we might take to others. So that's just the question I want to ask to make sure we're going into this with eyes wide open. Councillor Kroll?
The reason I said 100% is the area, the hall, the bit of parking that they have left, they need to support the hall. They do functions on the parking lot. And I'm hoping they'll get the message with the taxes that they're going to have to pick up on the other property. So I'm prepared to.
So Councillor Kroll's moved that 100% for 2 years exemption for this other portion for the Legion, and Councillor DeAndrade seconded it.
The opposite.
I'm sorry, I've got to chair the meeting, I'm sorry. If you want to run for mayor, 2 years, corporate officer.
I just want to be clear that it's 100% of that part that's class 8.
Yes.
And not for the class 6.
Yes, 0 class.
Yes, yeah. The class 6 part's non-negotiable. We're only looking at the other one, yeah. It's been seconded.
It was moved by Councilor DeAndrade and seconded by Councilor Kroll.
Which I said twice, and then it was, yeah, I mean, we can always do like, you challenge the chair and stuff and say, no, someone else should have been counseled, but we're just going to be here for until
No, it doesn't matter.
8 o'clock or something on really frivolous reasons. I'm sorry you don't like the way I'm chairing the meeting. Can we vote on this? All those in favor? The motion carries. So I think we're on to the churches now. Is that the rest of the churches? Are there any? Because we've done 2 of those properties. And we could, this might be a point where we want to say, let's treat them all the same. The remaining ones might be a point where we consider parking. But yeah, okay. That's the Community Building Society, yeah. Councillor Thompson, did you have any thoughts on the churches? I know you were thinking about these.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I go back to looking at the statutory exemption based on building, and then the relationship of that building footprint to the lot. And we've got some considerable space, like I had mentioned previously, 70%, 80, 81, 83. So I put forward a consideration of deducting the 100% that we're currently giving on these properties and create 100% a reduction based on some of this vacant paved parking space.
Okay, some of this, do we have a?
Up for discussion, up for discussion as far as how to approach when we're looking at, the deduction. Councillor Lumley had made a comparative that seemed to be rather relative earlier based on the statutory exemption percent relationship to the 100%. Maybe that's where we start as a discussion. It seems to be fairly relative actually to lot space.
Okay. Did we have that? Did you want to
Introduce that.
phrase that again? Yeah.
Town, the permissive tax exemption would be the percentage equal to a total of a 75% exemption. So the statutory exemption plus the town's exemption would equal 75% on each one. So again, the Roman Catholic Church, 50%. Now the town would reduce our permissive tax exemption from 50 to 25, equaling 75%. Does that make sense? Calvary, 27%. The town would reduce theirs to 48% to make 75 for the Calvary. Jehovah's Witness, 35%. The town's permissive tax would be 40% to make it 75 for the Jehovah's Witnesses. That was my suggestion. So there would be equal taxation for the balance of the churches that haven't submitted or made some sort of commitment socially.
So maybe the wording would be something like that the exemptions for these properties be set so that combined with the statutory exemption, the total exemption equals 75%.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm moving that.
Okay. So that would be all of these properties except for the that we're looking at in the properties receiving statutory exemptions category, except for the parish of St. Aidan and St. Bartholomew and the legal not built Christ the King Church property. All the others we're looking at for this.
Right.
Okay. So that's moved. I see Councillor Kroll seconding it. I do want to ask before we go ahead with this, did councillors see, I mean, in the questionnaire, we definitely felt that St. Bart's is doing a lot, and that justified their 100%. Did councillors see any kind of different level, I mean, I heard somebody already say there's really been no change, but do we want to consider any different level for any of them, or do we kind of all see them as contributing fairly the same? And I think it's also important to recognize that the reason, presumably, that statutory exemptions are being granted is because churches are thought to be contributing to the community and expected to be contributing to the community. So that's why they get the statutory exemption. So I just want to put this out there to make sure we're not missing anything in the questionnaire. Anything jumped out at anyone? And I don't see Councillor Kroll anymore. Are you still there?
Yeah, just turn off his camera.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Kroll's camera's turned off, but we can still hear you, Councillor Kroll, right?
Yes.
Oh, I can barely hear that.
Yeah, he's still there.
I just want to make sure you're still here to vote on this.
I am.
Sounds like you're outside, or I am in the distance. Yeah.
Stretching his legs.
Any more discussion on this motion? All those in favor? Yes, there's, okay, that's, that motion carries. That's all of them, right? So I really want to thank Noni for all of your work on this, to prepare us for this. Yeah, it's been a lot of work in gathering this information and presenting it to us in a way that we could make these decisions. Yeah, thank you. And it's over for now, but this is just to go to the bylaw, right? So these are just, so the schedule is now the bylaw will come back in September. Councillor Cole, did you have something to say? Looked like it there.
No, well, I just wanted to say that, something that has been incredibly useful was the site plans that Noni provided with the areas. This has never been an easy thing to deal with. And, I think as a council, we put out some fairly clear directives of what we were hoping these people that are receiving the permissive tax credits might consider doing. So, I know it's going to roll out like an orchestra of scorched cats, but, I think hopefully we might get some positive results out of it.
Okay, Councillor DeAndrade.
Thank you. Yeah, and in this appreciation, I really appreciate when the report provided how much in taxes it's being, downloaded to residents. And so the next report, I appreciate also the background, because we are struggling with policing costs and all that. So our costs, operational costs increasing. And I think it's important that this be like very well understood by the community, how much, perhaps 1%, 2% in taxes, it's already a relief. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Cole.
I brought it up before, but I'd just like to reiterate it, and I don't know whether it's possible that if we can, if any of the funds, the difference in funding between what they were receiving and what will now be collected could go towards affordable housing, if there's some way that that's possible. Just, if we just sort of indicate it's a taxes coming back to us, but, the purpose of going this route was to create affordable housing, or to meet the housing crisis. So if the funding could be directed towards affordable housing or housing in some way, it sort of takes a bit of the sting out of the bite.
That's difficult again, because it's like, I mean, this is just it's just general taxation we're talking about, so. I hear you, but I think maybe we'll just park this conversation because it's, I'm not here in person, I'm not hearing everybody enthusiastically supporting the idea yet, so I think maybe we should just have it a different time to make it, considering we've had a lot of.
I would just save that money, now you want to spend it.
Exactly.
Okay, so there is, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Next council meeting, September 10th. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. All those in favor? The motion carries.